Chapter 6:18. Most of the time Yang Ming was easygoing. Before making a move he would give the person in front of him a chance to repent and apologize, but this time was different. The person he insulted was Yang Ming's father, which Yang Ming couldn't tolerate. Now it was already good that he didn't kill him. Yang Ming had already restrained a lot of his anger. But even so, President Wan's head was still full of big footprints. President Wan's head was stepped on by Yang Ming. Even speaking was a little difficult. His cheeks opened and closed like a big toad. Sorry. President Wan also sobered up a lot. He had the attitude of a wise man who knew better than to fight when the odds were against him, so he had to apologize. He was thinking about how to retaliate against these people when he went out. Louder. I can't hear you. Yang Ming increased the strength of his foot. Sorry, I was wrong, said President Wan loudly. Call me Grandpa. Yang Ming didn't show any signs of sparing him. For Yang Ming there were two weak spots. One was his woman and the other was his parents. If anyone touched Yang Ming's weak spot, the consequences would be very tragic. Grandpa, President Wan said intermittently, you have mercy on me. Yang Dahai was also stunned by this sudden change. When he recovered, he saw that Yang Ming was stepping on President Wan's head. He was immediately shocked. Big Ming, what are you doing? Let go of President Wan. Humph. Yang Ming sneered and raised his leg. President Wan hurriedly got up and ran out of the door. What the hell? Yang Ming scolded and then gave Ho Junhan a look. Ho Junhan immediately understood. No matter who you are, what your identity is, how prominent your position in the south is, it's fine if you can call the wind and summon the rain. But in Songjiang Yang Ming's territory, if you dare to be dishonest, then you won't have a good time. Therefore Ho Junhan immediately called to arrange it. It was estimated that if this President Wan wanted to leave Songjiang, even if he didn't die, he would lose a layer of skin. Big Ming, how can you do this to President Wan? Yang Dahai said angrily, if you do this, can he still give orders to the factory? Forget it, old Yang. Don't talk about Yang Ming. Feng Wanjiang shook his head and said, if I were a few years younger, I might have beaten him up too. Why? Yang Dahai was very puzzled. He didn't have the experience of the business world like Feng Wanjiang, and he wasn't a smooth person. However, Feng Wanjiang was already a veteran in the business world. From President Wan's words he had already understood what he meant. This guy had no sincerity to cooperate at all. He was completely treating them as beggars and was only giving them charity in the end. Therefore it could be said that this business was impossible even if Yang Ming didn't do this. Old Yang, can't you tell? Feng Wanjiang smiled bitterly and said, President Wan has no intention of cooperating at all. He treats us as beggars. He wants to use 100,000 yuan to send us away. So it's like this. Yang Dahai thought for a long time and probably figured out the key. He sighed and said, but Big Ming, aren't you a bit too much? What if President Wan calls the police? Yang Ming immediately smiled. It was possible to say that President Wan found someone to retaliate against him, but it seemed impossible to call the police. First, Yang Ming didn't do anything to him. Second, what evidence did he have to prove that Yang Ming hit him? Sure enough, Ho Junhan immediately said after listening, Uncle, you can rest assured. I will take care of everything. Yang Dahai didn't know Ho Junhan's ability. He didn't know what to say. However, Feng Wanjiang knew what Ho Junhan did, so he said to Yang Dahai, President Ho is a capable person. Old Yang, you can rest assured. Nothing will happen. It's really disappointing. Yang Ming said faintly, Uncle Feng, Dad, because of that old guy we didn't eat. Let's go to another place to eat. Nightless club, my treat. Ho Junhan quickly got up and said, just go home and eat a bite, right? Besides, didn't we change another dish? Said Yang Dahai. Big Ho, you can go back. The atmosphere here isn't good. Let's go to your place, said Yang Ming. Okay, brother Yang. Ho Junhan nodded and went to do his job. Originally, the dishes that had been ordered couldn't be returned, but Ho Junhan was too lazy to talk nonsense with the little waiter. He directly called their boss. When the boss saw Ho Junhan, he immediately blamed the waiter for not having good eyesight. He quickly said that this meal was his treat. It was free of charge. Ho Junhan also accepted it calmly and didn't refuse. Although Ho Junhan usually didn't find trouble with Moon Island, it didn't mean that he was afraid of Moon Island. It was just because the scale of Moon Island wasn't big, and the business project didn't conflict with him. The boss of Moon Island also understood this, so he was also respectful to Ho Junhan. A group of people came to the Nightless Club. Ho Junhan directly took Yang Ming and the others to the VIP private room upstairs. When they passed by the guest rooms on the 4th floor, suddenly there was a heart-wrenching roar from one of the rooms. Ho Junhan immediately frowned and asked the underling next to him, "What's going on? Is someone causing trouble?" "No, President Ho, it's our guest. They are all in the same group." The underling explained, "Maybe they are just fooling around." Ho Junhan nodded and didn't say anything. After all, the guests who came to the Nightless Club were very mixed. Some of them came to gamble. It was normal to have internal strife after losing the bet. Yang Ming didn't care. He casually glanced over there. However, Yang Ming immediately frowned and fell into contemplation after seeing it. After looking at it for a while, Yang Ming walked to the VIP private room with Ho Junhan. The waiter came. Ho Junhan handed the menu to Yang Dehai and Feng Wanjiang and asked them to order. Yang Ming excused himself to go to the bathroom. After standing up, he gave Ho Junhan a look. Ho Junhan also went out. "What's wrong, brother Yang?" After Ho Junhan left the private room, he quickly asked. "Just now in the guest room downstairs there seems to be a problem. Find someone and ask who they are." Yang Ming faintly instructed. "Okay, brother Yang." Although Ho Junhan didn't understand why Yang Ming suddenly cared about this, he didn't ask much. He directly followed Yang Ming's instructions. After a while, an underling ran over with the registration data and said, "President Ho, there are 3 people registered in room 409. One of them is a fatty who is a foreigner. Although the other 2 people are not foreigners, they are not regulars. They are new faces." "When did they check in?" asked Yang Ming. The underling was very well behaved. He looked up at Ho Junhan because now it involved some information in the hotel. He couldn't simply say it to others. "It's okay. What brother Yang asks you, just say it." Ho Junhan nodded to the underling. "Yes, brother Yang." The underling quickly continued. "They checked in this afternoon. I personally received them." "What did the foreigner look like when he came?" asked Yang Ming. "He seemed to be asleep. He was carried by another man with a hooked nose." The underling said, "This person said that the foreigner was their boss." "Okay, I got it. You go to work first." Yang Ming waved and said, "Okay, brother Yang, President Ho, I will go first." The underling said respectfully. After the underling left, Yang Ming picked up the information sent by the underling and looked at it. The hooked nose was called Zhang Hunan. The other short fatty was called Jing Shubong. The foreigner was registered as James Bond, which was obviously a fake name. As a result, the names of the 2 men were likely to be fabricated. Yang Ming looked at it and opened his mouth wide. "Damn. 007. Brother Yang, why are you looking at these?" asked Ho Junhan baffled. "Big Ho, I think things don't seem to be that simple." Yang Ming said, Why does it seem like these 2 people kidnapped a foreign old man?" "Kidnapping?" Ho Junhan was stunned. "You mean these 2 people are kidnappers?" "There is this possibility." Yang Ming nodded and said, "I didn't want to get involved in this matter, but since it happened in the Nightless Club, I can't ignore it." Ho Junhan also nodded. The Nightless Club had always been known for its safety. If people knew that there was a kidnapping case in the Nightless Club, it would have a considerable impact on the reputation of the Nightless Club. Now the public opinion news was very fucked up. If these 2 people really committed a crime, the newspaper would report that the kidnappers kidnapped foreign tourists in the Nightless Club. It would spread like wildfire and it would become the Nightless Club kidnapping foreigners. In the end, it would become that the Nightless Club was a black shop. Originally, the Nightless Club's background in the underworld was to ensure the safety of the guests, but as a result, even some people would think that the Nightless Club was doing black business. Chapter 619. Should I call for help? Ho Junhan's face couldn't help but become solemn. "No need. It's just 2 little thieves. You don't have to be so serious." Yang Ming smiled and waved his hand. "It just so happens that I didn't have enough fun fighting with that guy surnamed Wan. Let's go down and practice with them." Ho Junhan knew Yang Ming's skill, so he didn't need to worry. Old Buffon had suffered a lot today. He came to Songjiang for a vacation with his company's chairman, Frank. He could have enjoyed it, but he didn't know how the news that he was a rich man was known by 2 desperados, which led to this scene. Old Buffon was the current patriarch of a big family in Europe. This family didn't sound very impressive, but many large companies in Europe were secretly controlled by the Buffon family. For example, Frank's Lutong Automobile Group was controlled by the old Buffon family. This wasn't surprising. This situation was also happening in China. It was said that the chairman of Frank's domestic subsidiary invited Frank to come here for a vacation. In order to please Frank, brought old Buffon along. Old Buffon had read Marco Polo's travels in his early years, so he yearned for the local customs of China, so he followed Frank to Songjiang. Frank was an old drunkard. The several company executives he brought were also drunkards. When they came here, they drank every day in addition to sightseeing. Although old Buffon didn't like to drink, they came out to play together. It wasn't good to interfere with Frank. After all, it was a vacation now, not work. Old Buffon couldn't interfere with this. Therefore, Frank drank all day in the hotel with the receptionist on the China side, and old Buffon strolled casually on the street, enjoying the local customs here. Originally, there were bodyguards following old Buffon every day, but today old Buffon thought about strolling around the hotel in the morning, so he didn't inform the bodyguards to follow him. But he didn't expect that something would happen just as he was strolling around the hotel entrance. Speaking of which, this matter was also old Buffon's fault. Old Buffon saw an old man practicing swordsmanship in a small forest not far away. Old Buffon was a fan of China's kung fu. He was almost obsessed with it. When he was at home, he watched The Legend of the Condor Heroes, The Return of the Condor Heroes, and The Demigods and Semi-Devils. Moreover, he also got a bunch of secret martial arts manuals and studied them at home. Although there was no result, he still enjoyed it. Today, when he saw this old man practicing his swordsmanship, he wanted to take a closer look. Old Buffon didn't know much about China's human relations. He had watched too many historical dramas and thought that there were still some martial arts masters in China who knew how to leap onto roofs, vault over walls, and use hidden weapons. Old Buffon walked near the old man and watched the old man practicing his swordsmanship. Suddenly, two men rushed up and directly controlled old Buffon. Old Buffon was just about to call for help, but his mouth was covered by the hook-nosed Zhang Hunan. Old Buffon was horrified. He knew that he was being held hostage by the bad guys. He pinned his last hope on the old man practicing his swordsmanship. He hoped that the old man would be like the heroes on TV and help out righteously. Then he would beat up the two bad guys in front of him. However, what disappointed old Buffon was that the old man didn't save him. He was also trembling there. It was no wonder. This old man was here to exercise his body and practice Tai Chi. When it came to fighting, he couldn't do it. Old Buffon was disappointed, and he also had doubts about China's kung fu. Could it be that those are special effects in the movie? Are they all legends? Are they just for show? Although someone had told old Buffon before that there was no such thing as acupuncture points, hidden weapons and the like, it was all a lie. However, there was also an old Chinese medicine practitioner who once told old Buffon that from the perspective of Chinese medicine, the ceiling of acupoints also existed. Therefore, old Buffon firmly believed that in China, there must be a person with extraordinary abilities. Old Buffon was kidnapped. Zhang Hunan and Jing Shubang. Let's call them that for the time being because these were their pseudonyms. The two men caught old Buffon and brought him to the Nightless Club. There was no other reason. They knew that this was Bao Sanli's territory, so it was definitely relatively safe. The police couldn't come here for an inspection. Zhang Hunan and Jing Shubang were two roaming criminals. They kidnapped the young master of a big boss in the south and wanted to squeeze some money out of him. They didn't expect that the big boss didn't care at all. The two men killed the hostage in a fit of anger. Later they learned that the young master was only the adopted son of the big boss. He had several adopted sons outside. Zhang Hunan and Jing Shubang were almost angered to death when they learned the truth. However, they couldn't do anything. It was a fact that they killed someone. No matter who they killed, they couldn't do anything. Being wanted by the police, the two men began to flee. The most infuriating thing was that they didn't get a penny. It wasn't even enough for travel expenses. They fled from the south to Songjiang. Then they occasionally wandered around the Moon Island Hotel. They wanted to find some ways to make money, and they saw old Buffon. Because old Buffon had two bodyguards around him, Zhang Hunan and Jing Shubang thought that this foreigner must be very rich. Otherwise, he couldn't afford to hire bodyguards. Therefore, the two men planned to find an opportunity to kidnap the old man and extort some travel expenses. Jing Shubang was afraid that Zhang Hunan would ask for less. This old man was a foreigner, but he was different from the moneybags in the south. The price given to the moneybags was 1 million, but the price given to this foreign old man was changed to US dollars. Heroes, I don't have US dollars. Old Buffon planned to delay time with these two people. He hoped that Frank could find his disappearance and then call the police to find him. Bullshit. Zhang Hunan said, you are a foreigner. How can you not have US dollars? I came from Europe. How can I have US dollars? Old Buffon said helplessly. Europe? Don't Europe use US dollars? Zhang Hunan scratched his head. Europe uses euros. They are more valuable than US dollars. Jing Shubong had more knowledge than Zhang Hunan. Than 1 million euros. Chapter 620. So much money. I can't make the decision. Old Buffon found it funny. 1 million euros. I can even take out 10 billion euros. But the key problem is that I can't easily give the money to these two guys. Old Buffon also saw that these two people were ruthless masters. Maybe when I just gave the money, the other side would go to heaven. Therefore he could only deal with these two people. You can't make the decision? No way, right? Look at how rich you are. You can't even take out 1 million euros? Zhang Hunan said with a frown. Just listen to his nonsense. Jing Shubong didn't believe old Buffon's words. Don't waste time. Just say it. Do you want money or your life? Yes. I'm not afraid to tell you. Buddy, we have already killed a person who didn't pay. You don't want to be the second one, right? Zhang Hunan sneered. Old Buffon's heart was stunned. These two guys really have blood on their hands. It seems that I can't not guard against them. I have to think of a way. Otherwise, I may lose my life and money. Dang dang dang. Just as old Buffon was hesitating, there was a knock on the door. Zhang Hunan was shocked and then shouted, Who is it? Waiter, I'm here to deliver toiletries. Yang Ming said. No need. We just came here to rest for a while. We don't need those things, said Jing Shubong. Yang Ming responded faintly. He took the universal room card handed over by Ho Zhenhan and inserted it into the keyhole. Kata, the door was opened. Yang Ming strode in directly. Fuck. Didn't I not let you in? You motherfucker. Zhang Hunan was furious. He jumped up and pointed at Yang Ming. Hurry up and get out. Yang Ming had been watching outside for a long time. He confirmed that these two people were indeed carrying out a kidnapping. Therefore, this matter really couldn't be ignored, especially when it involved foreigners. The public opinion of this news was not necessarily on which side. If this matter was blown up, maybe the Nightless Club would also take the blame. It was also possible to suspend business for rectification. Yang Ming determined the identity of these two guys, so he didn't show mercy. When Zhang Hunan pointed at him and yelled, Yang Ming waved his hand and slapped Zhang Hunan away. What are you doing? Jing Shubong was smarter. Seeing the change, he immediately took out a fruit knife and put it on old Buffon's neck. Don't come over. If you do, I'll kill him. Jing Shubong saw that Yang Ming knocked down Zhang Hunan without saying anything, so he subconsciously thought that Yang Ming was old Buffon's man who came to rescue old Buffon, so he quickly took old Buffon as a hostage. I don't know him, Yang Ming said faintly. His eyes did not look at the knife in Jing Shubong's hand. The Nightless Club is my territory. I don't want anyone to do something else here. So whether you want to extort, don't do it here. Otherwise, I will make all of you disappear together. Ah. Jing Shubong opened his mouth wide in shock. He didn't expect that the person who came was actually representing the Nightless Club instead of rescuing old Buffon. He was a little dumbfounded at once. They don't want you to cause trouble in their territory. You threaten them with old Buffon? You're dreaming. Therefore, the knife that Jing Shubong pressed on old Buffon's neck gradually loosened. Buddy, we are all making a living in the underworld. Who doesn't have anxious moments? Please make things easy for us and turn a blind eye. Jing Shubong's tone softened. After all, this was Songjiang and it was the Nightless Club. Songjiang was the territory of the boss. If he wanted to make a living here, he had to lower his voice and beg others. Yang Ming picked up the room card in his hand and played with it. He seemed to be contemplating, but Yang Ming suddenly threw the room card out. Shwa. With a sound, Jing Shubong's arm that was holding the fruit knife was cut off. The sharp knife and half of his hand fell to the ground together. Ew. Although Jing Shubong was a tough guy, It was impossible for him to not feel anything when one of his hands was cut off. He was in so much pain that he couldn't help but howl. 10 is Kung Fu. Old Buffon's eyes suddenly flashed with stars. He looked at Yang Ming with a look of worship. It's too badass. A martial arts master. It was no wonder that old Buffon was so excited. A piece of plastic room card could actually cut off a person's hand bone. How much strength did this require? In the eyes of many people, the plastic card was light. How could it be thrown so far? Moreover, it could cut off the hand bone. It was simply incredible. It violated the principles of physics. But old Buffon didn't think so, because he felt that there was internal force in this world and Yang Ming must have used internal force. Therefore, he was very sure that the young man in front of him must be a martial arts master. Thinking of this, old Buffon was excited. Why did I come to China? Wasn't it to see the martial arts masters here? However, I have been here for such a long time. Except for an old man who practiced swordsmanship, I haven't seen anyone. In addition to being disappointed, I didn't expect that in my most critical moment, a martial arts master actually appeared. He was like a hero who came out of nowhere. 2 moves. He only used 2 moves to defeat 2 criminals. How powerful was his kung fu? Although the top bodyguard hired by his family could also do this, the other move that Yang Ming showed was what really attracted old Buffon. Old Buffon didn't even care about the blood on it. He reached out and picked up the room card. He looked left and right but he couldn't find any clues. It was so light. Never mind using this to cut off a person's hand bone. Even if I threw it out myself, it would be strenuous. Yang Ming didn't bother with old Buffon. Instead, he went straight to Jing Shubong, who was howling on the ground, and kicked his neck. Jing Shubong, who was howling like a ghost, suddenly became mute. He opened his mouth but his throat couldn't make any sound. Don't shout. It's annoying to listen to it. Yang Ming frowned and said. Yang Ming used his foot to hit Jing Shubong's mute acupuncture point. The reason why he did this was that this floor was all guest rooms. If Jing Shubong continued to shout, it would inevitably affect the guests in other rooms. Therefore, Yang Ming could only show a little in order not to attract unnecessary trouble. However, except for Ho Jinhan, there was only one foreigner present. Yang Ming wasn't afraid that they would say anything. However, the foreigner was old Buffon. He was a person who knew what was good for him. In wuxia novels, there were similar scenes where one couldn't speak after being hit on the mute acupuncture point. Therefore, when he saw Yang Ming use his foot to gently touch a certain part of Jing Shubong's body, Jing Shubong's voice stopped abruptly. If this wasn't a hit on the acupuncture point, then what was it? Old Buffon was so excited that he almost fainted. I really got a blessing in disguise. I was kidnapped but I was rescued by a real martial arts master. It seems that I didn't suffer in vain. Hit on the acupuncture point. Hit on the acupuncture point. Old Buffon shouted excitedly. Don't shout. If you want to become mute, I will fulfill your wish. Yang Ming glanced at old Buffon and said coldly. Cool. Old Buffon said halfway and quickly shut his mouth. He didn't dare to continue. However, when he saw Yang Ming's indifferent eyes, he suddenly thought of Duguqiubai in wuxia novels. So cool. Foreign old men generally kept a young heart. They were even crazier than young people when they went crazy. Old Buffon was such a person. In order to study China's kung fu, he learned the Chinese language completely. He unconsciously used some popular online terms. Big Ho, go online and check if these 2 people are wanted criminals. Yang Ming heard from Zhang Hunan that he had killed a person before, so he association wondered if these 2 people were wanted criminals. Ho Jinhan nodded. If they aren't, you know what to do, right? Yang Ming instructed. Understood. Ho Jinhan replied simply. Old man, are you okay? Do you need to go to the hospital? For this old man, Yang Ming still had some headaches. He had to appease this old man now. He couldn't let him go out and talk nonsense. I'm fine. Old Buffon's eyes were now full of Yang Ming's heroic image. How could he care about the pain in his body? He said directly, Hero, please accept me as your disciple. As old Buffon spoke, he didn't care if Yang Ming agreed or not. He knelt on the ground with a put-ong sound. He couldn't be blamed for such a big scene. He saw on TV and in novels that those martial arts sects had to kneel when they wanted to be apprenticed. Therefore, old Buffon didn't care about his status and identity in the family. He directly knelt in front of Yang Ming. Besides, kneeling to the master wasn't a shameful thing. If he really succeeded in being apprenticed, then old Buffon felt that his face was shining. The patriarch of the Drucker family, who was also old Buffon's old friend old Drucker, was also a martial arts fanatic. He often discussed martial arts with old Buffon. Therefore old Buffon thought that if he really had a master as his master, he could definitely show off in front of old Drucker. Chapter 621. Old Buffon's move made Yang Ming a little stunned. After a long time he frowned and said, "Old man, don't joke around. I saved you just because this shop has something to do with me. Get up quickly. I don't have time to talk nonsense with you. Hero, you must accept me as an apprentice." Old Buffon imitated those who wanted to be apprenticed on TV. He said with snot and tears, "I came to China from afar just to be an apprentice. I want to learn China's kung fu. Hero, if you don't agree, I will kneel and never get up." Yang Ming looked at the foreigner in front of him. He really didn't know what to say. Why is he so stubborn? "You get up first. If there's anything we can talk about it later," Yang Ming said perfunctorily. Old Buffon saw that Yang Ming didn't immediately agree, so he had to stand up. He also heard that the apprenticeship was a very complicated process. Those who were strong in kung fu would examine the apprentice's character and qualifications when they accepted an apprentice. It was said that the master was like a father and the apprentice was like a son. Therefore, the master would carefully consider before accepting an apprentice. It was impossible to accept an apprentice easily. Otherwise, if the apprentice's character was bad and brought disaster to the world, it would be terrible. Therefore, after old Buffon figured it out, he wasn't in a hurry. In his opinion, the apprenticeship must be sincere. Isn't there a saying? It's called "Where there is a will, there is a way." There is another saying, "There is nothing difficult in the world, but there is a will." Therefore old Buffon decided to pester Yang Ming. He didn't believe that Yang Ming wouldn't accept him as an apprentice. Seeing that Yang Ming turned and left the room, old Buffon quickly followed him respectfully. Anyway, he had made up his mind. Wherever Yang Ming went, he would follow. Following someone isn't illegal, right? Besides, Yang Ming is a master. He definitely won't bother with me. Make up your mind. You must succeed. Old Buffon hummed a song and followed him out. Ho Jinhan was stunned. This old guy's face is bruised and swollen, but he is still so happy. This foreign old man is full of energy. Ho Jinhan shook his head and waited for the younger brother's report in the room. Those in the underworld all had their own methods and sources of information. When taking in underlings, they also had to verify whether the person had any cases on them. The current era was different from the past. Ho Jinhan's place was not a shelter. If there was a fugitive or something, it would be fucked up. Although Ho Jinhan wasn't afraid of trouble, he had to avoid these things more or less in the underworld. You're in the underworld, but harboring a wanted criminal is a bit too much. Soon the identities of these two people were found out. Ho Jinhan didn't say anything and directly sent them to the police station. When he came to the room next door, Yang Ming planned to ask about the identity of this foreign old man. If he was a tourist, then he didn't need to care about him. If he was a resident here, then he really had to talk to him. He didn't want him to go out and make a fuss. "Old man, where are you from? What happened just now?" asked Yang Ming. In front of his master, he had to tell everything he knew, so he quickly replied, "Master, I'm the current head of the Buffon family in Italy. This time I'm here with a friend, who is also the chairman of the company controlled by my family, to travel to China. I have been looking forward to China for a long time. I want to see those legendary martial arts masters and then worship a master as my master." When Yang Ming heard old Buffon call him master, he couldn't help but frown. "Who is your master? I haven't promised to be your master yet." Yes, future master. Is this okay?" Old Buffon quickly changed his words. Yang Ming found that this foreign old man's face was really thick, but he was a little helpless. "What is your family? What kind of company is that?" "Our family. It's an ancient family." Old Buffon didn't know how to explain it. In his opinion, this kind of family only existed in Europe and there was no such family in China. So he hesitated for a long time. "It's very rich, very powerful, and controls a lot of companies and politicians." Sweat. Yang Ming touched his chin after listening. "Isn't this old Buffon too direct? Doesn't he know how to be discreet? Don't you know what modesty is? That company is an automobile manufacturing group called Lutong Group." Old Buffon continued. "Lutong Group, a car manufacturer? Yang Ming was shocked, but his face was calm as he looked at the old man. In other words, he is the owner of that car company? The fat man, President Wan, that I beat up today, isn't he also from the Lutong Group? Could it be a subsidiary of this guy in China? There is a big Lutong Group in the south. What is the relationship with your family's automobile group? Asked Yang Ming. It's a subsidiary of the group in China, said old Buffon. Sure enough. Yang Ming didn't know what to say. Just now, President Wan was arrogant and stood in front of me. Now his boss's boss is respectful to me. What kind of logic is this world? How long are you going to stay here? Yang Ming naturally wouldn't directly ask him to interfere with the bus factory's order. If so, this old man would definitely take the opportunity to blackmail him with the matter of apprenticeship. I'm not going to leave. I want to stay here and learn kung fu. Old Buffon really didn't stop until his words were shocking. He suddenly threw out a heavy bomb and scared Yang Ming. It's not that I want to criticize you, but you are already so old. Why do you still want to learn kung fu? Yang Ming was really dumbfounded. People learn kung fu from elementary school. Isn't it too late for you to start learning now? I don't ask to be like you, flying on the roof and walking on the wall. I just want to be better than the average person. Old Buffon said, isn't your kung fu divided into internal kung fu and external kung fu? I definitely can't practice internal strength. My future master, please teach me some external kung fu. Yang Ming was speechless. He thought, you asked me to teach you internal kung fu. I have to know it first. I haven't seen anyone who really practiced internal kung fu. Moreover, I'm an assassin. Can I teach you these things? If you go back and show off in front of others and accidentally kill someone, then you'll be done for. Master, you can rest assured. I will definitely be a good apprentice. Just accept me. I promise that I won't use kung fu to do evil. I will save the world and be a qualified kung fu person. Old Buffon saw that Yang Ming didn't speak and quickly said, it's not that I don't accept you, but my kung fu is too fierce. I'm afraid that you can't control it well and kill people. Yang Ming said with some helplessness, it's okay. I definitely can't learn so much. You just have to teach me how to chop the head and hit the acupuncture point without touching it. Old Buffon said excitedly. Because he heard Yang Ming's tone, it seemed that he was going to let it go. How could he not work harder? Chop the brick with your hands. This is simple. You go home and take a pressure cooker to cook the brick for a few hours. Then you can chop it. Yang Ming said, as for hitting the acupuncture point without touching it, I don't know how to do it. How can I teach you? Future master, didn't you just hit the acupuncture point without touching it? That person suddenly became mute. Old Buffon said, I was hitting the acupuncture point without touching it. Do you think I know the one yang finger? Yang Ming glared at old Buffon. Future master, do you know someone who knows the one yang finger? Old Buffon suddenly became spirited. I know. Emperor Duan has been dead for hundreds of years. How can I know him? I didn't cross over. Yang Ming said with annoyance. Regarding the matter of accepting an apprentice, let's talk about it later. I still have other things to do in these 2 days. That, future master, this matter of apprenticeship can't be delayed. You have to promise me. Otherwise, I won't be able to sleep. Old Buffon was anxious. What does it have to do with me if you can't sleep? Yang Ming wasn't moved by the question. How about this? Future master, you have to promise me first so that I can calm down. As for when you will hold the apprenticeship ceremony and teach me martial arts, that is up to you. Old Buffon said. Hey, I'm afraid of you. Yang Ming waved his hand and said, I will promise you for the time being, but I have to further observe your character. Also, don't call me master in front of outsiders. Then what should I call you? Old Buffon was troubled. His master was the person he respected the most in his heart. If he didn't respect his master, it would be a bit difficult for him. You can call me Mr. Yang or Yang Ming directly. Yang Ming said. Then I will call you Mr. Yang. Old Buffon nodded and said, Master, then let's hurry up and do something first. Old Buffon was very good at climbing up the pole. When Yang Ming agreed, he changed future master to master. After old Buffon sat down, Yang Ming said to old Buffon casually, Okay. Old Buffon nodded and agreed without thinking. In his opinion, as long as he could do what his master told him to do, he must do it. If he couldn't do it, he had to find a way to do it. Yang Ming's words made Yang Dahai and Feng Wanjiang surprised. They cast inquiring gazes at Yang Ming. Old Buffon didn't say much. He took out the phone directly and called. Then he said in Italian in a commanding tone, "Frank, now bring your chairman in China with the surname Wan. Come to the Nightless Club immediately, private room 601. He didn't know what Frank said, but old Buffon hung up the phone and said to Yang Ming, "Mr. Yang, they will be here soon." "Dad, Uncle Feng, let me introduce. This is old Buffon. He is the actual shareholder of the European Lutong Automobile Group. Our big S Lutong Group here is his subsidiary here," Yang Ming said. Feng Wanjiang was shocked. He quickly stood up and said respectfully, "Mr. Buffon, welcome. Uncle Feng, you don't have to be so polite to him. If you have any request, just mention it later." Yang Ming said faintly, Yes. With my relationship with Mr. Yang, just say whatever you want. I will do it." Old Buffon also said quickly, "We are all on the same side. We are on the same side." After listening to old Buffon's words, Feng Wanjiang began to have some doubts. That's not right, right? This guy can't be a liar, right? The shareholder of the Lutong Automobile Group, how noble is that? The boss of a subsidiary here, President Wan, is already arrogant enough. How can this person who has a higher status than the boss of the head office be so easygoing? This wasn't the key. What made Feng Wanjiang most suspicious was that this old Buffon's face was full of injuries. How could he not see that he was a big shot? Therefore Feng Wanjiang whispered to Yang Dahai, "Old Yang, why do I feel that this is so unreliable? This old Buffon, could he be a liar? Yang Ming is still young. Could he be fooled?" After old Buffon said this, Yang Dahai began to have some doubts. He nodded and said, "I think it is a bit strange. This old Buffon is speaking Chinese. No, I have to ask Big Ming. You have to ask about this. Otherwise you will be cheated," Feng Wanjiang said. Yang Dahai stood up and then waved to Yang Ming. "Big Ming, you come out with me. I have something to tell you." "Oh?" Yang Ming stood up baffled. Then he followed Yang Dahai out of the private room and asked, "Dad, what do you want to say? Why don't you say it in the room?" "Big Ming, this old Buffon, how do you know him?" Yang Dahai asked very seriously. "Are you doubting his identity?" Yang Ming was stunned and thought of his father's worries. "Big Ming, this old Buffon looks very suspicious." Yang Dahai said, "Factory manager Feng also said that this old Buffon doesn't look like a rich person. Dad, you see that he is quite down and out, but he is quite easygoing. He is different from the arrogant President Wan, right?" Yang Ming said with a smile. "I guess so." Yang Dahai nodded. "That I will tell you the truth. In fact, old Buffon was just kidnapped by two gangsters. In the private room downstairs, Ho Zhenhan and I rescued him, so he is very grateful to me. It is normal for him to be easygoing to you. He just escaped from the Devil's Denver. It is normal for him to be injured." Yang Ming explained with a smile. "Turned out to be like this." Yang Dahai nodded and said, "If this is the case, then I am relieved. Right, where are the two gangsters?" "They were sent to the police station by Ho Zhenhan." Yang Ming said, "Dad, when President Wan and the others come, you will understand everything." As they were talking, they saw President Wan, whose face was bruised and swollen, and a foreigner walking over quickly. When President Wan saw Yang Ming, he immediately flew into a rage. He pointed at Yang Ming and said, "Good boy, you are here. Well, you have guts. Don't go. The people I am looking for will be here soon. See if they don't kill you." At #yen #%yen and the foreigner's face darkened as he yelled at President Wan. President Wan immediately became obedient. He returned to the foreigner's side with a flattering expression and whispered a few words to him. The foreigner snorted and walked to private room 601. President Wan glared at Yang Ming fiercely. Yang Ming didn't care at all. Even Yang Dahai felt that President Wan was not as superior as before. He now believed in old Buffon's identity because Frank and President Wan had indeed rushed here. President Wan and the others just entered the private room, and Yang Ming and Yang Dahai followed them in. President Wan is getting anxious. Are the two of you not done yet? However, in order to show how much face and power he had in the country in front of the boss, President Wan still scolded, "You two guys, get out of here." However, when he was halfway through the sentence, he felt that something was wrong. Because, sitting next to old Buffon was actually the director of the bus factory just now. When he looked back again, he saw old Buffon standing up enthusiastically and giving his seat to Yang Ming. President Wan's head suddenly buzzed. What is going on? What the hell is going on? Could it be that I drank too much and my eyes were blurred? However, after rubbing his eyes, he found that this was the case. This foreigner named Old Buffon was actually respectful to Yang Ming. Mr. Buffon, do you have any orders for me to come here? In President Wan's view, Frank was already a superior existence, and this existence was so respectful to Old Buffon. Then Old Buffon to this person named Yang Ming. Chapter 623. President Wan felt dizzy for a while. It can't be. Pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger? Is he playing with a small character like me? Seeing the bruises on Old Buffon's face, President Wan was stunned. Could it be that Old Buffon was also beaten up by Yang Ming like me? After the beating, I found out that this Yang Ming has other identities, so I am so respectful to him. President Wan was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. He also sobered up a lot. Mr. Yang, this is Frank. If you have any requests, just mention it to him. Old Buffon said, Frank, you remember. In the future, what Mr. Yang says is equivalent to what I say. What he tells you to do, you just do it. Old Buffon thought that what his master said was the same as what he said. It was even better than what he said, so he instructed Frank. Okay, Mr. Buffon. Frank nodded respectfully and said, Mr. Yang, this is my personal business card. If you need anything, you can contact me directly. As Frank spoke, he handed over a business card with both hands. There were only a few contact numbers on it. There were no other titles. Obviously, it was a personal business card. Yang Ming took the business card and said, Okay, Mr. Frank. I will contact you directly if I need anything. President Wan was a villain. He bullied the weak and feared the strong. He acted according to the wind. In front of Frank and Old Buffon, he was a dog. In front of people like factory manager Feng who needed his help, he was a master. President Wan regretted it now. Why was I so impulsive just now? Why did I pretend to be a badass in front of Yang Ming? Now they even dared to beat the boss's boss. Why would they be afraid of me? Moreover, I once complained in front of them that Frank was an alcoholic. If this were to spread to Frank's ears, wouldn't I be finished? Thinking of this, President Wan's legs softened. He knelt on the ground with a plop and said, Mr. Yang, I'm sorry. You're a great person and don't mind my wrongdoings. Please don't mind me. I offended you before. Please don't take it to heart. In fact, for a big shot like you, I'm just a dog. It's not worth being angry with me. President Wan, you are. Feng Wanjiang quickly came over and wanted to help President Wan up. But President Wan still didn't dare to get up. If Yang Ming didn't speak, how could he dare to get up? At this time, Old Buffon also understood what was going on. This person surnamed Wan seemed to have a grudge with Master. As Master's proud disciple, he said, Frank, what's the matter with this person? I don't know. Frank naturally didn't know President Wan and Yang Ming's resentment. Forget it. Yang Ming waved his hand. I didn't mean to embarrass you. It's just that I didn't like to hear the words you said to my dad. Yes, I apologize. I apologize now. President Wan quickly crawled to Yang Dahai and said, Uncle Yang, I was wrong. What did you call him? When Old Buffon heard President Wan call Yang Dahai Uncle Yang, he was immediately unwilling. Do you want to be on the same level as Master? Then aren't you my elder? No, Master Yang. I was wrong. President Wan heard Old Buffon's displeasure, but he didn't think of the relationship between them. He just thought that Old Buffon was just dissatisfied with his title. Although Old Buffon was still very dissatisfied with President Wan's title, he didn't say anything when he saw that Yang Ming didn't say anything. President Wan, what are you doing? Get up quickly. Yang Dahai was an honest person. How could he bear to see President Wan kneel to him? He quickly reached out and helped him up. Yang Ming didn't mean to embarrass this guy. He was only annoyed with him because he was disrespectful to his father. Now that President Wan's face was ruined, he couldn't be arrogant in the future. Yang Ming didn't intend to continue to trample on him. President Wan, when are we going to sign the order for the Songjiang bus factory? Yang Ming said faintly. Sign. Before President Wan could speak, Frank spoke first. Manager Wan, give all the orders that you can to the Songjiang bus factory. Anyway, Old Buffon had the final say in his group. Since old Buffon asked him to do so, he had no reason to object. Besides, it was just the Songjiang bus factory. Even if all the orders were given to them, it wouldn't be much. It wouldn't have any impact on the global deployment. Right, Manager Wan, do you have any obsolete equipment? Just give it to them directly. Old Buffon suddenly thought of something and said, "Ah, the equipment was just installed this year," said President Wan. "It was just installed." Old Buffon thought about it and said, "How about this? You give the equipment to Mr. Yang's bus factory. In the future, these things will be manufactured by the bus factory. You don't need to do it and you can save some effort. We don't need to pay for the equipment. Just pay for the order first." In order to please Yang Ming, old Buffon was doing his best to show his diligence. He was afraid that this master wouldn't accept him if he wasn't happy. "Ah, okay." President Wan nodded quickly. "Anyway, Frank was also present. I'll just do what they say. I don't care so much about it. I just need to keep my position now. The rest has nothing to do with me." "That's fine. Let's talk about business here. Let's eat something first. I'm hungry too." Yang Ming saw that the waiter had started to serve the dishes, so he waved his hand and said, "Dad, Uncle Feng, let's eat first." Yang Dahai was a little numb to this son who always surprised him. First, he suddenly got admitted to a key university before the college entrance examination, then he found a campus belle to be his girlfriend, followed by making money to start a company, and then he found a mistress. This series of things had made Yang Dahai immune. So at this moment, besides being a little surprised about old Buffon, he didn't have any other thoughts. But Feng Wanjiang was different. He felt like he was in a dream. President Wan, who was arrogant just now, became more obedient than a dog in a blink of an eye. Moreover, Feng Wanjiang increasingly felt that Yang Dahai's son wasn't simple. Not only was he buddies with Songjiang's boss, but he also brought the boss of President Wan's boss over in a blink of an eye. This wasn't the key point. The key point was that this old Buffon was pleasing Yang Ming. Anyone could see it. Who is this Yang Ming? He is so badass. No wonder he dared to beat up the pig head of President Wan in the private room. He has someone behind him. I really underestimated the Yang family before. I thought that Yang Dahai's family was relying on his brother Yang Dashan, but now it seemed that it wasn't the case. The young master of the Yang family was the real badass. Yang Ming accompanied Qin Mingyan to the temple fair for a day. He was really hungry. He didn't care much and just picked up the rice and started to eat. But Feng Wanjiang and Yang Dahai were embarrassed to eat because there were other people present. "Mr. Yang, do you want to order another bowl of rice?" Old Buffon saw that Yang Ming finished a bowl of rice in a few bites and asked quickly. Everyone in the room was shocked, including Yang Ming. He also frowned. This old Buffon, isn't his performance a bit too much? Even if he wants to please me, shouldn't he consider the occasion? Aren't you adding trouble to me? Yang Ming's face sank and whispered, "Mr. Buffon, you are hungry too. Hurry up and eat something." Yes. If you don't finish it, I don't dare to eat," old Buffon said immediately. Yang Ming almost died of anger when he heard it. I said it in a low voice. No one could hear it except for old Buffon, but this old Buffon had a loud voice. With such a shout, everyone in the room heard it. However, Yang Ming could only be helpless. If he scolded old Buffon again, then his master-servant relationship with old Buffon would be exposed. However, Yang Ming thought about it and gave old Buffon a wink. Then he said loudly, "Old Buffon, even if I am your savior, you don't have to do this, right? Although I saved you, you don't have to be so respectful to me." After that, Yang Ming said in a very low voice in old Buffon's ear, "If you don't want me to give up on you, cooperate with me." Oh. Old Buffon suddenly understood and then said cooperatively, "Mr. Yang, as the saying goes, a drop of water should be repaid with a spring. What's more, you saved my life. I can't repay it all in my life. Don't you have a saying in China? You saved me. You're my second parent." Seeing that old Buffon started to talk nonsense again, Yang Ming quickly kicked old Buffon under the table and said, "Well, don't mention this matter again in the future. Didn't you help me a lot?" Chapter 624. It's my duty. That's what I should do. Old Buffon said quickly. At this time, President Wan knew that Yang Ming was old Buffon's savior. Feng Wanjiang also understood why old Buffon was so respectful to Yang Ming. However, Feng Wanjiang was also a little puzzled. Why is this Yang Ming like the white-browed hero? Is he saving people everywhere? First, it was Ho Jinhan's mother. This time it was old Buffon. The people he saved were all big shots. Yang Dahai had known this for a long time, but he didn't understand the living habits of foreigners. Seeing old Buffon so enthusiastic, he thought that they were like this to their savior. In fact, anyone would be very respectful to their savior, but old Buffon was a little overboard. With old Buffon as the middleman, the Songjiang bus factory's order had no resistance at all. It was better than expected, which made Feng Wanjiang very happy. He was also full of confidence in the future of the factory. What made him happiest was that Ho Jinhan promised to let him stay in the factory. Although he would work for Yang Dahai, he didn't care about this. In Feng Wanjiang's view, old Yang was a good person. He was very easygoing. Working under him, old Yang wouldn't make things difficult for himself. Moreover, with the strong relationship between Yang Ming and old Buffon, it was difficult for the bus factory not to develop. As for the future, it was up to Feng Wanjiang and President Wan to discuss. This time, President Wan changed his previous attitude and was always smiling. In the evening, old Buffon insisted on sending Yang Ming home personally. Yang Ming had no choice but to agree to this request. He also understood old Buffon's meaning. Old Buffon was afraid that Yang Ming would disappear and couldn't be found again. But he didn't think about it. The factory was there, and it was a cooperation with old Buffon's family company. If Yang Ming ran away, wouldn't it be easy to find him? If they stopped the cooperation directly, wouldn't Yang Ming appear? Yang Ming actually wronged old Buffon. Old Buffon really didn't mean this. Sending Yang Ming home was completely out of respect for his master. After Yang Ming returned home, Yang Dahai was very serious and called Yang Ming to his room. Big Ming, do you have a lot of things that you haven't told me and your mother yet? Yang Dahai took out a pack of white grape cigarettes from his jacket pocket and prepared to take one out. Yang Ming took out half a pack of Zhonghua cigarettes from his pocket and handed it to Yang Dahai. Dad, you smoke this? Don't smoke those cheap cigarettes in the future. Yang Dahai nodded and didn't say much. He took the cigarette in Yang Ming's hand and lit one. Yang Ming had been depraved for a period of time. He smoked and drank, so Yang Dahai was also clear about it. Nothing much. Yang Ming sighed and said, Dad, what do you want to know? That Ho Jinhan, I heard from factory manager Feng that he is a person from the underworld. Yang Dahai frowned. How are you so familiar with him? Don't you know what he does? Dad, didn't I tell you before? I saved Big Ho's mother. Yang Ming smiled and said, besides, being in the underworld isn't as bad as you think. I'm not afraid that you know now. In the past, I was in the underworld for a period of time. I just know. I don't want you to have too much contact with these people. Yang Dahai shook his head. I'm afraid that you will go astray again. Go astray? Yang Ming said with some helplessness, Dad, the current society is like this. If you don't have any social connections, it's difficult to do anything. Unless you are in the factory all your life. Do you know how many businessmen in our Songjiang want to have a relationship with Big Ho? Take Uncle for example. Isn't Uncle a loyal partner of Big Ho? Now that he opened the entertainment city, Big Ho has half of the shares. I know this, but although Yang Dahai was stubborn and old-fashioned, he wasn't a person who couldn't listen to other people's advice. Especially in the recent period of hearing and seeing, he knew that his previous method wasn't working. When he became the chairman in the future, he had to try to change himself and make himself more tactful. Forget it. Yang Dahai said, I understand what you mean. I will work hard to change it in the future. It seems that my original idea is no longer suitable for this society. That's right, Dad. You're too honest. You think too simply about the relationship between people. Yang Ming said, however, in fact, as long as you are happy, it's fine. Your son is here to support you. You can do whatever you want. Not to mention other things, your son is still very useful in Songjiang. Ha! Little bastard. Yang Dahai suddenly laughed after listening. You are capable now. You can even support me. Yang Ming was also very emotional. Since he got the special ability until now, it had been a year. It was like a lifetime ago. Originally, in his eyes, Wang Shifan, who had a strong foundation and a wide social network, had become very unworthy of mentioning. He collapsed just like that. I don't know what happened to you, kid. Suddenly your brain became enlightened and your luck became better. Yang Dahai was also very strange. His son, who was originally a good-for-nothing, had unknowingly become so sensible. I don't know. Yang Ming smiled and said, this is also a blessing in disguise. Our current boss in the underworld of Songjiang, in addition to Ho Junhan, the other is Bao Sanli. My relationship with him is also good. So, Dad, you can rest assured. Now you have a relationship with both the underworld and the underworld. How do I have a relationship with both the underworld and the underworld? Yang Dahai wondered, who do I know in the underworld? Of course it's my father-in-law, your in-law. Yang Ming smiled. You kid. Don't trouble old Chin. Yang Dahai said quickly, right, how do you know the person named Bao Sanli? In the beginning, in the detention center, we were in a room. Yang Ming said, just like that we know each other. Our relationship is also good. Dad, you also know that in that kind of place, if you don't mix with other prisoners, it will be very disadvantageous. Yang Dahai nodded. He also understood this truth. If you have a tense relationship with a person in a cell, then you can wait to be bullied all day long. So he said, you really have a blessing in disguise. It's just that the girl named Lin Jian. Right, do you have news about her? Yang Dahai's words suddenly made Yang Ming embarrassed. He hadn't thought about Lin Jian's matter to tell his father, because he had just mentioned Lan Ling before. Now if he brought up Lin Jian, wouldn't it seem that he was a bit too much? It seemed that this matter could only be discussed slowly, so he said, not yet, but I will pay attention. For the first time, father and son had a deep conversation. It was at this moment that Yang Dahai really regarded Yang Ming as an adult. The two also made a discussion on the development of the bus factory. Yang Ming advocated to give up the current bus production project, eliminate the production line, and focus on the parts processing market. If this was done well, it would be more profitable than bus manufacturing. Yang Dahai also thought so. Most likely Feng Wanjiang also had the same idea. Moreover, the empty car manufacturing license plate could be sold separately for financing. Yang Ming wasn't very interested in the vehicle manufacturing industry. This wasn't the focus of his development. He just wanted to find something for his father to do. Yang Ming was also very happy. For many years his father was so open for the first time. Even when he was admitted to university, his father wasn't as happy as he was now. In the early morning, in his sleep, Yang Ming's cell phone rang. Yang Ming thought that it was the kind of lucky call that would hang up after one ring, so he didn't bother. Because this kind of phone call was often made at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. When people woke up in the morning, they mistakenly thought that a friend was calling them, but they didn't hear the phone ring when they were asleep. However, the ringtone of the phone didn't hang up after one ring, but it continued to ring. Who is it? Yang Ming picked up the phone in a daze. I am Zhaoing. There was a clear and sweet voice on the phone. Yang Ming was stunned and woke up a lot. Zhaoing? Where are you? Why are you calling so early? I'm at the airport. I can't get a taxi now. The airport bus won't be available until 7 o'clock in the morning. Zhaoing said, I don't mean anything and it's a little cold, so I called you. Oh? You didn't wear more clothes? Asked Yang Ming. It's not cold on the plane and it was still warm when I got on the plane. It's almost the same as our autumn. Zhaoing said, I didn't bring my coat. It's at home. You wait for me. I will pick you up. Yang Ming said without thinking. I don't have to trouble you. It's only 3 o'clock. Zhaoing was a little embarrassed. Chapter 625. You have woken me up. You don't need me to pick you up, hee. Yang Ming said with a smile, wait for me. I'll be there in a while. Zhaoing silently hung up the phone, and her heart was filled with emotions. Although Yang Ming was younger than her, he was the one who took care of her every time. This made Zhaoing automatically ignore the age gap between the two people. She was also caught in the crossroads of feelings and couldn't extricate herself. Zhaoing was also very conflicted. She didn't know what to do. For example, when she went home this time, when her mother asked about her boyfriend, she suddenly thought of Yang Ming. Originally, she could have taken the afternoon flight back today so she didn't have to suffer so much. But she remembered that Yang Ming promised her that he would take her to the temple fair, so she couldn't wait to buy a midnight flight ticket. Because tomorrow she had to go to school to report. There was no time, so she was in such a hurry. Yang Ming rubbed his eyes. He first called Ho Junhan and asked him to find an underling to send the car to his house. In the middle of the night, Yang Ming couldn't bear to trouble Ho Junhan. Ho Junhan agreed. He said that he would come over himself, but Yang Ming didn't agree. After the phone call, Yang Ming got up and washed his face. Then he left a note for his parents saying that his friend was coming, and he had to go out to pick her up. Then Yang Ming went downstairs. He thought that it would take a while for Ho Junhan to come, so Yang Ming deliberately dawdled for a while. As a result, when he went downstairs, he saw that the BMW had already been parked in front of his house. Brother Yang. The person who got off the car was Wang Jinda. Ho Junhan sent him. This kid felt honored. He also understood Yang Ming's identity, so he felt that he had a better future if he followed Yang Ming. And it's you? Yang Ming nodded. Are you sleepy? I'm not sleepy. I'm full of energy. I'm fine. Wang Jinda smiled. Let's go to the airport. Yang Ming got into the car. Along the way, Yang Ming slept for a while, but Wang Jinda didn't dare to relax. When they arrived at the airport, Wang Jinda carefully pushed Yang Ming and said, Brother Yang, we're at the airport. Yang Ming was a light sleeper. After Wang Jinda parked the car, he woke up, but his eyes were closed. But even so, Yang Ming could clearly see everything around him. Wait for me here for a while. I'm going to pick someone up. Yang Ming opened his eyes and instructed. Hey Brother Yang. Do you want me to go with you? Wang Jinda wanted to carry a suitcase or something. No need. Yang Ming waved his hand. He was meeting with Xiao Ying, so he didn't want any outsiders around them. Wang Jinda saw that Yang Ming didn't want to bring him, so he didn't say anything. He was still quite clever. He also understood that it might be inconvenient for Yang Ming to bring him along. After getting out of the car, Yang Ming directly rushed to the exit of the domestic arrival hall. The exit was different from the waiting hall. The temperature here was lower. Xiao Ying didn't wear many clothes, so she should be cold. So Yang Ming didn't dare to delay. When he arrived at the domestic arrival hall, Yang Ming quickly found Xiao Ying, who was resting on a chair. Yang Ming walked over quickly. Many people were resting on the chairs in twos and threes, waiting for the airport bus in the early morning. Yang Ming sat next to Xiao Ying, but Xiao Ying didn't open her eyes. She just held her suitcase tightly. It was no wonder. There were many people coming and going in the airport. The seats on the side may often be occupied by different people. Yang Ming took off his coat and gently covered Xiao Ying's body. When he came out of the house, Yang Ming deliberately wore a coat because he was afraid that Xiao Ying would be cold. Xiao Ying was still very alert. She felt that there was suddenly something on her body. She immediately woke up. When she opened her eyes, she found that Yang Ming was sitting next to her, and he was covering her body with a coat. Xiao Ying couldn't help but feel happy. She whispered, "You are here. I saw that you were asleep. I was afraid that you would catch a cold, so I thought about covering you with a coat. In the end, I woke you up." Yang Ming said apologetically, "No, I didn't fall asleep. I just took a break." Xiao Ying smiled. "It has nothing to do with you. Then let's go. The airport is too cold." Yang Ming said. "Right, how did you get here?" asked Xiao Ying. "A friend drove me here. He's at the door." Yang Ming said, "Let's go. It's warm in the car. And then let's go. Don't make people wait." Xiao Ying said quickly when she heard that a friend was waiting outside. "It's fine." Yang Ming said, "It doesn't matter." As Yang Ming said this, he pulled Xiao Ying's suitcase and walked out of the door. "Why did you bring so few things?" "What else do I bring?" Xiao Ying said, "Originally, my mother said that she would bring me a bunch of local specialties, but I don't think it's useful. Now Songjiang doesn't lack anything. What isn't sold in the supermarket?" "That's true. It's not like the past. It's not easy to buy things." Yang Ming nodded. Out of the airport building, Yang Ming took Xiao Ying to Wang Jinda's car. "BMW? Your friends?" Xiao Ying looked at the car in front of her with amazement. Xiao Ying and Yang Ming didn't have much contact. She didn't know much about Yang Ming's friends, so when she saw such a luxury car here, she was inevitably surprised. "Get in the car." Yang Ming smiled and opened the back door, letting Xiao Ying sit in the back. He also sat next to her. When Wang Jinda saw that Yang Ming came back with a beautiful woman, his face immediately showed a clear expression. He thought, sure enough, I was right not to go. Otherwise I would be a third wheel. "Where are you going, Brother Yang?" asked Wang Jinda. "Let's go back to the city first." Yang Ming looked at the time in the car and said, "It's only 4 o'clock. Let's find a hotel to rest. Can we go back to the nightless club? Asked Wang Jinda. In his opinion, any hotel wasn't as cheap as his hometown. Hey, let's go back to the nightless club. Yang Ming nodded. When Yang Ming spoke, Zhao Ying blushed unconsciously as if Yang Ming wanted to take her to a hotel to get a room. Although Zhao Ying also knew that this idea was unlikely, she couldn't help but think in that direction. Looking at Zhao Ying next to him, Yang Ming had an impulse to hold her in his arms. However, Yang Ming didn't know Zhao Ying's thoughts. Is she the same as me? Do we have feelings for each other? But what was certain was that Zhao Ying didn't have a boyfriend yet. Otherwise, she couldn't find me to pretend to be her boyfriend. It could even be said that Zhao Ying now had very few friends of the opposite sex. Yang Ming sighed slightly and closed his eyes. Zhao Ying also took this opportunity to take a break. The car stopped at the entrance of the nightless club. Yang Ming and Zhao Ying got off the car. Wang Jinda took the initiative to assume the role of a porter and helped Yang Ming and Zhao Ying carry things. Moreover, in order not to affect the normal conversation between Yang Ming and Zhao Ying, he deliberately kept a distance from the two of them. Wang Jinda had already booked the room. He was Ho Junhan's assistant, so when he spoke in the nightless club he was under one and above all. It was very effective. However, Wang Jinda misunderstood the relationship between Yang Ming and Zhao Ying. He directly prepared a couple's suite for the two of them. Moreover, he was afraid that Yang Ming didn't prepare well enough. He even prepared things like condoms and put them on the bedside table. Originally, he wanted to prepare some sex toys, but he was afraid that Yang Ming would be disgusted, so he gave up. However, necessities like condoms were still prepared with several brands. He didn't know which brand Yang Ming used, so he simply prepared several boxes. Wang Jinda was a bit too smart, but he was too smart for his own good. He originally wanted to please Yang Ming. As a result, he misunderstood the intention of Yang Ming coming to the hotel to get a room. Yang Ming just thought that Zhao Ying had been on the plane for the whole night. It was still early, so she should rest first. However, Wang Jinda thought that Yang Ming couldn't wait to find a hotel to XX. Therefore, when Yang Ming and Zhao Ying entered the room, Yang Ming saw the things on the bedside table. His face turned green. Zhao Ying naturally saw the things on the bedside table. If it was one or two it would be ignored, but Wang Jinda put several boxes there. As long as people had eyes, they could see it. Looking at Wang Jinda, who was smiling at the door, Yang Ming was angry. He glared and pointed to the boxes of condoms on the bedside table. You bought them? Hurry up and take them out. Wang Jinda was stunned. He scratched his head and wondered, what's wrong, brother Yang? Don't you use these brands? Don't be angry. Tell me what brand you want to use. I will buy it now. Chapter 626. Wang Jinda couldn't be blamed for saying this. In his current thoughts, he already thought that Zhao Ying was Yang Ming's woman. So when he saw Yang Ming get angry, his first thought was that these brands of condoms weren't what Yang Ming wanted. At this moment, the expression on Yang Ming's face was as good as it could be. However, Zhao Ying was looking in front of him, so he couldn't say too much. He just said with a sullen face, buy your second hand. I don't need these things. Oh. Wang Jinda looked at Zhao Ying and looked at Yang Ming. Then he suddenly said, I understand. Then he quickly walked to the bedside table and put away the boxes of condoms. Yang Ming thought that he really understood. Who would have thought that when this kid walked to the door he actually said to himself, it turns out that brother Yang is a drug user. Yang Ming really wanted to kick him. This kid, isn't he a bit too creepy? It's a bit outrageous. Zhao Ying also looked like she didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She naturally understood now that all of this was done by Yang Ming's friend on his own initiative. But even if it wasn't done by Yang Ming, Zhao Ying was still a bit embarrassed. After Wang Jinda went out, Yang Ming scolded, this kid fucking messed around. Don't bother with him. Forget it, he is actually kind-hearted. Zhao Ying said with a red face, it's just a misunderstanding of our relationship. If you and Qin Mengyan came you wouldn't scold him. Ugh. Yang Ming was embarrassed and said, Mengyan and I didn't. That, hee, who are you kidding? Zhao Ying smiled. Do you think I don't know college students nowadays? In that case, Sister Ying, you've also experienced it? Yang Ming asked mischievously. Why are you talking about me? I don't have a boyfriend yet. Zhao Ying glared at Yang Ming. Just kidding. Yang Ming said, Sister Ying, you should rest for a while. You can't sleep on the plane. You must be very tired. Okay, but this room only has one big bed. What are you going to do? Zhao Ying said, you were woken up by me in the middle of the night. You probably didn't sleep well, right? Then should I ask him to change to a double room for us, or should I get another room for myself? Yang Ming asked. Forget it, there's no need. Zhao Ying shook her head and said, we still have to trouble them. It's already good enough that they entertain us. How about this? Just lie down and sleep with me. You're not taking off your clothes anyway. That's fine. Yang Ming naturally wanted it. In his heart he still had feelings for Zhao Ying. This feeling made Yang Ming have a special mood every time he saw Zhao Ying. It was natural to think of that summer night, the moment when the two people almost kissed each other. Yang Ming even had the same thoughts as Zhao Ying sometimes. If I were more active and overbearing at that time, would Zhao Ying have become my first woman? Or the second one besides Lin Jun? It should be said that she was the first woman in a real sense. However, the past was the past. It was difficult for Yang Ming to see through Zhao Ying's thoughts. Zhao Ying was now like a close friend and sister to him. Her eyes were not mixed with other things, so Yang Ming didn't dare to take a step further. Sharing a bed with Yang Ming, Zhao Ying's mood was also very nervous and excited. How could it be so easy to fall asleep? Although she was very calm on the surface and closed her eyes as if she was sleeping, her heart was fiercely churning. Yang Ming, haven't you done it with Chen Mengyan yet? Zhao Ying hesitated. Yang Ming shouldn't lie to me about this kind of thing. Back then when he came clean about Lan Ling, he explained everything clearly to him. That is to say, if I take the lead and do it with Yang Ming, then am I more advantageous than Chen Mengyan? Thinking of this, Zhao Ying's heart couldn't help but be eager. For her, tonight may be a good opportunity. However, it may also be a double loss. She could only bet on which one of Yang Ming's feelings for her and Chen Mengyan was deeper. Zhao Ying wasn't sure, but she was more willing to believe that Yang Ming loved Chen Mengyan more. How to say it, this seemed to be a bit contradictory, but she really didn't want Yang Ming to be a person who was fickle. So in a moment, Zhao Ying also had a plan. If she really had something with Yang Ming now, then she would be too sorry for Chen Mengyan. Chen Mengyan treated her as a big sister and told her all her thoughts, but she had to scheme against her. Zhao Ying absolutely couldn't do this kind of thing and she didn't want to do it. Therefore, the two people who loved each other in their hearts could only pretend to be very calm and lie on the bed honestly. Fortunately, in the end, sleepiness prevailed. When the two people woke up again, it was already 10:30 in the morning. Both of them were awakened by a burst of firecrackers. During the Chinese New Year, there was nothing else but the sound of firecrackers. Yang Ming rubbed his eyes and sat up. He glanced at Zhao Ying next to him. She had also opened her eyes. You're awake. Yang Ming smiled and said, how was your sleep? It's okay. Zhao Ying said with a bitter face, I may not be used to the bed in this hotel. I have a bit of neck pain and shoulder pain. How about then we don't go to the temple fair? Let me send you home? Yang Ming asked with concern. No, I want to go. Zhao Ying shook her head again and again. I suffered such a big pain to fly back in the middle of the night. Aren't I rushing to go to the temple fair? Otherwise, it would be better if I came back this afternoon. Then I will give you a massage. Yang Ming smiled and then reached out to massage Zhao Ying's shoulder. He really didn't have any other thoughts. When Fang Tian trained him, he also taught him a lot of massage techniques. Because when performing tasks, it was inevitable that there would be contusions or other accidents. Learning to self-massage could solve a lot of problems. Zhao Ying was blushing because of Yang Ming. However, seeing Yang Ming's serious look, Zhao Ying didn't refuse. Moreover, the place that was massaged by Yang Ming was really comfortable. It seemed that Yang Ming was really giving her a massage and didn't want to take advantage of her. In fact, even if he took advantage, Zhao Ying wouldn't say anything. At most, she would feel that Yang Ming was a dishonest person, but she was too lazy to talk about him because her heart had already had his shadow. Being massaged by Yang Ming like this, Zhao Ying's shoulder and neck suddenly felt better. She couldn't help but be surprised. Yang Ming, you really know how to massage. Otherwise, what do you think I'm doing? Yang Ming listened to Zhao Ying's words and didn't know what to say. I don't think I'm a liar. Hee hee. Zhao Ying smiled. Much better. It's okay. Let's go. Right, it's already 10 o'clock. Can we still go to the temple fair? Of course, there are people at the temple fair all day long. Yang Ming smiled and reached out to Zhao Ying, wanting to pull her up. But in a moment he reacted. The person on the bed now was Zhao Ying, not Qin Mengyan. When he massaged Zhao Ying, the intimate action instantly closed the distance between the two people. Yang Ming subconsciously regarded Zhao Ying as a close person, so the scene just now happened. Seeing Yang Ming's awkwardness, Zhao Ying smiled. I don't need you to pull me up. I can get up. Hee hee. Yang Ming laughed twice. On the other hand, Wang Jinda was somewhat inexplicable about Yang Ming's anger yesterday. He couldn't figure it out, so he got up early in the morning and went to consult Ho Zhenhan. After Ho Zhenhan heard it, he scolded Wang Jinda, blaming him for acting on his own initiative. Yang Ming might have picked up a relative or a good friend. What is going on with you doing this? When Wang Jinda heard it, he patted his head and suddenly realized. It seemed that he really thought a bit too much, so he didn't even dare to see Yang Ming's face and hid directly. So now Yang Ming's driver also became Ho Zhenhan. They had breakfast in the Nightless Club's restaurant. It was already past the breakfast time, but who was Yang Ming? With a word from Ho Zhenhan, the restaurant re-prepared a hot breakfast. After Yang Ming and Zhao Ying ate, they went to the temple fair. Yang Ming looked at the familiar temple fair sign and couldn't help but touch his nose with a bitter smile. Chinese New Year 3 days, but I came here 3 times with 3 different beauties. This was probably one of the rarest examples in history. There was nothing for Ho Zhenhan to do in the temple fair. After informing him, Yang Ming let him go back first. Chapter 627. After Ho Zhenhan left, Yang Ming and Zhao Ying started to stroll from the beginning of the temple fair. After all, Zhao Ying was older. Although she was curious about the things in the temple fair, she wasn't as eager as Qin Mengyan and the others. In the commercial street they casually bought some gadgets. Then they went back to the performance street. Why didn't they go to the entertainment street first? Because Yang Ming was more awkward there. Yang Ming was afraid that Zhao Ying would take him to play something, so subconsciously Yang Ming led Zhao Ying to another road. It's really lively here. Zhao Ying looked at the bustling crowd and said sincerely, I have been in Songjiang for so many years. This is the first time I have come to the temple fair. Who asked you to go home during the Chinese New Year? Naturally you couldn't see it. Yang Ming smiled. Yeah, I was busy taking care of you students. I didn't have time to study these things. Zhao Ying nodded and said, now I am a student again. I have time to do something I like. Right, Sister Ying, are you not going to be a teacher in the future? Asked Yang Ming. Didn't I say? I want to be a strong woman in the business world. Zhao Ying nodded and said with some longing, it's just that my parents think that the career of a teacher is very stable and the income is good. They don't want me to do business. If this is the case, why are you still studying as a graduate student in the economics department? Yang Ming asked with a smile. Hee, I took the exam behind my parents' back, but it has already become a fact. What can I do if they don't let me? Zhao Ying also smiled slyly. I am acting first and reporting later. When they know, it will be too late. Hey, Yang Ming, what is that over there? Why are there so many people? Zhao Ying suddenly pointed in a direction not far away as she spoke. Oh. Yang Ming looked up. It turned out to be a performance of a beauty and a python. A very beautiful young woman was dancing with an incomparably huge, terrifyingly strange-looking python, attracting the continuous cheers of the crowd. It's a beauty and a python show. Yang Ming said to Zhao Ying, there are a lot of people watching. Let's go and have a look. Of course I'm going. Since she was here, Zhao Ying didn't want to have any regrets. However, after taking 2 steps he said, that's not right. Yang Ming, when did your eyesight become so good? I wear contact lenses. Yang Ming was sweating profusely as he quickly gave a perfunctory answer. That's right, at such a distance no one would be able to see clearly, but I actually described it so clearly. Contact lenses? Zhao Ying was stunned. You wear contact lenses? That's right. Have you forgotten? When I was in my 3rd year of high school, there was an exam where you helped me put on my contact lenses. Yang Ming nodded seriously. Oh, I remember now. It was that time. Zhao Ying nodded. I thought you were deliberately distracting me to cheat. So you are really short-sighted? Hee, a little bit, not serious. Yang Ming smiled awkwardly. He was afraid that Zhao Ying would expose him if she continued to ask, so he changed the topic. Sister Ing, why don't you believe in my ability? Do I need to distract the invigilator's attention to cheat in the exam? Yang Ming's implication was that if I cheated, I would have copied it directly. There was no need to use such a cheap trick. Then how did I find out that your paper was the same as Zhang Bin's paper? What else do you have to explain? Zhao Ying said. I studied better than him. Maybe he copied it from me. Yang Ming said shamelessly. Your paper seemed to have his name written on it, right? Zhao Ying twitched her mouth. Now Yang Ming's results were better than Zhang Bin's. That was for sure. But before that it was hard to say. As the two of them were chatting, they came to the place where the crowd gathered. Sure enough, there was a performance of the acrobatics of a beautiful woman and a python. A young woman was dancing a giant python. She was circling back and forth in the air. The python danced with her movements. Everyone present was amazed. Even Zhao Ying seemed to be in a daze. She looked very excited. It was no wonder that girls were more interested in this kind of acrobatic performance. Just look at the tourists who were screaming and clapping their hands. Suddenly the young woman's gesture changed. The python's body suddenly straightened. It flew back and forth on a wooden stick that the young woman waved. Then the python opened its big mouth. The young woman didn't know what was in front of its mouth. After that, a fire dragon flew out. It was just in the direction of Yang Ming and Zhao Ying. Zhao Ying was shocked and shouted in panic. Because the flame was about to burn her and Yang Ming. Of course, this was just what she thought. In fact, the flame was still a long way away from them. Moreover, even if it touched people, it didn't matter because this was a special low-temperature flame used for acrobatics. It wouldn't burn people at all. But Zhao Ying didn't know. In a hurry, she grabbed Yang Ming's arm and hid her whole body behind Yang Ming. This was a girl's unique nature. When they were in danger, they liked to hide behind a man. In Zhao Ying's subconscious, she had already regarded Yang Ming as her support, so this idea was stronger. When she saw the flame coming, she subconsciously thought that Yang Ming would protect her. Yang Ming saw Zhao Ying's appearance and couldn't help but smile. It was rare for Zhao Ying to show a little girl in front of him. He hadn't felt like this for a long time. Yang Ming sighed and took the opportunity to hug Zhao Ying's shoulder, letting her lean more comfortably in his arms. In fact, among the girls present, not only Zhao Ying had this reaction, but many girls were like Zhao Ying. They screamed and jumped into their boyfriend's arms. The flame disappeared in an instant. It was calm as if it had never appeared. It didn't burn anyone present. At this time the girls screamed again and cheered loudly for the performer. Zhao Ying also realized the ambiguity between the two. She awkwardly broke away from Yang Ming's arm and coughed twice with a red face. She didn't know what to say. Although Yang Ming was the one who touched her, she took the initiative to pull Yang Ming's arm first. Yang Ming was only one step closer to her foundation. She couldn't say that he was a hooligan, right? This matter couldn't be explained clearly. Yang Ming didn't insist. Zhao Ying struggled and he let go of his hand. His action was very natural, without the slightest pretentiousness. Zhao Ying couldn't find anything wrong with it. In fact, Yang Ming was now guessing Zhao Ying's mentality. The moment just now, especially the moment when it was close to danger, was the most real moment of Zhao Ying's inner thoughts. In the face of danger, very few people could keep calm for a moment. And this moment of not being calm reflected the real thoughts of this person. Therefore, when the danger came, the first thing Zhao Ying did was to grab his arm tightly and hide behind him. What did this mean? The most likely thing was that in Zhao Ying's heart, she still regarded him as someone to rely on, just like in the past. He just didn't know why Zhao Ying was now much colder to him. Could it be because of Qin Mengyan? This possibility couldn't be ruled out. Another guess was that Zhao Ying just used him as a shield. When the danger came, she just grabbed a person to block in front of her. This was human instinct, and it was also a very realistic guess. If this was the case, then Zhao Ying would grab anyone to block her face. However, it seemed that Zhao Ying wasn't that kind of person. All of this was Yang Ming's guess. Now Zhao Ying's expression had returned to normal, as if the thing just now didn't happen. Yang Ming sighed at the same time, but he was also very helpless. A person's thoughts were the most difficult to understand. You were scared just now, right? Yang Ming asked with a smile. A little. I thought the fire was going to burn me. Zhao Ying nodded with lingering fear. Then you pulled me to block in front of you. Weren't you afraid of burning me? Yang Ming couldn't understand, so naturally he wanted to ask Zhao Ying. Zhao Ying wasn't on guard. How would she know that Yang Ming was asking? She said without thinking, "At that time I subconsciously thought that you could protect me." "Yang Ming, didn't you say before? You want to protect your sister? Why? You don't want to admit it?" "How can I?" Yang Ming said with a dry smile, but he was overjoyed in his heart. Sure enough, inadvertently, Zhao Ying still revealed her inner thoughts. Zhao Ying trusted me, but this kind of trust, is it based on the relationship of siblings, or something else? Zhao Ying's last sentence of protecting his sister made Yang Ming a little confused. Does Zhao Ying still treat me as a younger brother? Chapter 628. Both of them didn't continue this topic. They watched the performance for a while before leaving the performance street. "I heard that the things in the entertainment street are very fun," Zhao Ying suddenly said. "That, the entertainment street is for children to play?" Yang Ming really didn't want to go to the entertainment street. Many people knew him there, especially after he was in the limelight twice in 2 days. "No, I watched our Songjiang's local satellite TV at home. The introduction on it is very fun," Zhao Ying said with great interest, "especially a new rock climbing game. I want to see it." Yang Ming listened to Zhao Ying's words and suddenly felt a chill on his back. No way. She really wants to go? Moreover, it's rock climbing? Yang Ming couldn't help it. Seeing Zhao Ying's look of expectation, he couldn't bear to refuse again. He had to nod. I have accompanied my previous 2 girlfriends. Zhao Ying isn't the only one left. If I like her, I have to treat her fairly and treat her equally. This is also to cultivate my own fairness in advance. Zhao Ying was different from Qin Mingyan. She was only interested in some small games. She didn't have much interest in those that were obviously gambling, such as bag fishing, card drawing, treasure digging, and so on. From this, it could also be seen that Zhao Ying was a very rational person who could control her emotions very well. Needless to say, this kind of temperament was really more suitable for business. There wouldn't be a situation where she gambled the entire company out of passion. The games that Zhao Ying played were all games with heavy entertainment, such as goldfish fishing and other leisure games. Zhao Ying used a game coin to exchange for 2 small goldfish. It was still very cost-effective. Yang Ming accompanied Zhao Ying. He enjoyed the warmth of this moment as if he had returned to the past. Sure enough, as Yang Ming expected, someone recognized him. This person was the boss of the rock climbing club, who was also the organizer. However, he did not expose Yang Ming's identity. He only nodded at Yang Ming in a friendly manner. To be honest, the organizers really hoped that Yang Ming would come here. Because rock climbing was a new project in Songjiang, it had just entered here. It was in the stage of publicity and development, and the organizers didn't want to make money at this time. They only wanted to bring more popularity. After all, he was the only one who had obtained the exclusive right to operate Songjiang. He was preparing to enter the amusement park, children's amusement park, and some large parks. Yesterday, under the leadership of Yang Ming, the atmosphere of rock climbing had become unprecedentedly high. At the very least, the people who came yesterday had accepted this new sport. But today it was a lot worse. Although there were a lot of people climbing, the atmosphere was not good enough. Atmosphere is a very wonderful thing. It can arouse people's emotions and passion, making people rush to be the first to linger. For example, Yang Ming and Qin Mingyan's loving scene yesterday touched a lot of couples. Wang Daguang was the person who lived near the entertainment street. He saw the whole process of Yang Ming's rock climbing yesterday. After he went back, he couldn't stand his girlfriend's nagging. He had no choice but to bite the bullet and climb the rock today. In fact, Wang Daguang was a guy with a strong jealousy, but he didn't have a lot of courage. He was the kind of person who was bad. "Sir, do you want to rock climb?" The organizer smiled and said to Yang Ming. In his heart, he still hoped that Yang Ming could pull up the atmosphere. Yang Ming was stunned. Looking at the organizer's fake expression, he understood in his heart that he had become a prop. But it doesn't matter if it's a prop. The key is that he didn't expose me. In this way, I won't be too embarrassed in front of Zhao Ying. Although who he came with didn't have much to do with Zhao Ying, Yang Ming still didn't want to ruin the current atmosphere in his subconscious. "Do you want to try?" Yang Ming turned his head and asked Zhao Ying. "I don't want to." Zhao Ying shook her head and said, "I'm a little scared. But I want to watch you climb." "It's good. I will show you a big prize." Yang Ming nodded. "Bullshit." Zhao Ying certainly didn't believe it. I watched the introduction on TV. This is very difficult. There are only a few people who can climb up. That's not necessarily true. Isn't that right, boss? Yang Ming smiled and asked the organizer next to him. Yeah. Maybe you can get a big prize. The organizer smiled and nodded. Then I'll count on your auspicious words. After Yang Ming signed the agreement with the organizer, he went to prepare for the activity. When Wang Daguang saw Yang Ming at first glance, he recognized him. Wang Daguang looked at Yang Ming and then looked at Zhao Ying next to him. There was a burst of anger in his heart for no reason. Damn, aren't you fucking capable? You can't come every day, right? Isn't this acting? Moreover, you fucking change a beautiful girl every day. Wang Daguang was the kind of person who couldn't bear to see others better than him. Moreover, because of Yang Ming's scene yesterday, not only did he spend 200 yuan today, but he also had to suffer here. Therefore, he directed all his anger and resentment toward Yang Ming. If it weren't for Yang Ming, he wouldn't have to suffer here. Looking at Yang Ming moving his hands and feet, Wang Daguang was even more angry. Damn, you can do it. Just you wait. When climbing, Wang Daguang chose the rock path next to Yang Ming. Why? Because the side of the rock path was the rope that came down. Wang Daguang's mind had a plan to mess with Yang Ming. Since you let my wife force me to do this fucking thing, then I'll do it once and let you know the consequences of being struck by lightning. Of course, he didn't dare to openly provoke him, so he could only pretend that it was an accident. Because he had the belief to mess with Yang Ming, Wang Daguang climbed very quickly. Wang Daguang was proud. It seemed that he really had the talent for rock climbing. As Yang Ming climbed up, Zhao Ying began to worry. Just now, she only had a playful attitude and wanted to ask Yang Ming to climb up for her to see. However, when she was really in the situation and saw Yang Ming above her, Zhao Ying couldn't help but be afraid. How could I ask Yang Ming to play such a dangerous game? Zhao Ying blamed herself. Couldn't I just see how others play? Why did I ask Yang Ming to go up? Just as she was worried, a more shocking scene appeared for Zhao Ying. Another rock climber next to Yang Ming, Wang Daguang, suddenly shook his hand and fell down. However, Wang Daguang had a premeditated plan. All of this was an act. He instantly grabbed the rope by his hand and swung in the direction of Yang Ming. Help! Wang Daguang pretended to be anxious and grabbed Yang Ming randomly. His legs kept kicking back and forth, but it was all aimed at Yang Ming. Yang Ming. Zhao Ying was anxious. What's wrong with this person? If you want to fall, then just fall. Why are you grabbing Yang Ming? Do you want to fall together with him? In a moment of desperation, he didn't care about the danger and rushed to Yang Ming's side. In the beginning, Yang Ming really thought that the guy next to him couldn't hold on and was going to fall. He wanted to help him, but he immediately realized that something was wrong. There was no panic in this guy's eyes, but there was a kind of excitement, a perverted excitement. But there was more jealousy and gloating. Seeing that this guy's every grab and every kick was directed in his direction, Yang Ming understood everything. This guy is doing it deliberately. He wants to get me down. Could it be? This person is jealous of me? Yang Ming wasn't a fool. It was impossible that no one recognized him after 3 days of rock climbing. Maybe this guy next to him was one of them. Everyone has a jealous mentality, but some people have a serious jealousy and some people have a mild jealousy. And this guy next to him was obviously too jealous. Yang Ming wanted to teach this guy a lesson. Suddenly, he saw Zhao Ying running toward him. He was touched, but he suddenly had a plan. Now, isn't it the best time to test Zhao Ying's thoughts? I can take advantage of the situation. Hehe. Thinking of this, Yang Ming had a plan in his heart. He pretended to be physically weak and exclaimed, "Don't pull me. Don't pull me. Quickly move away. Save me. Save me." Although Wang Daguang was shouting for help, his actions were crazily trying to pull Yang Ming down. The organizer saw the scene above and was very anxious. While he asked Zhao Ying to hide further away, he also took out the microphone and asked Wang Daguang not to disturb others climbing. There was an inflatable cushion below, so it was fine even if he fell. Wang Daguang wouldn't listen to the organizer. He came for Yang Ming and it was intentional. He wanted to get Yang Ming down. Chapter 629. Seeing that the organizer had interfered, Wang Daguang became even crazier. He pulled and pulled. He wanted to drag Yang Ming down as soon as possible. However, how could Yang Ming be so easily dragged down by him? Saying that Yang Ming was a gecko was a bit belittling him. Seeing the opportunity, Zhao Ying was not far below him. Yang Ming began to move. Fuck your mother. Yang Ming cursed in his heart and then kicked out with his foot. Wang Daguang's body was like a kite with a broken string. He flew out with a whoosh. Of course, Yang Ming held back a lot of strength. He wouldn't kick him to death directly. However, he would definitely let him suffer a little. Wang Daguang directly flew out of the range of the air cushion below, but because he landed on his butt, although it was very painful, his body wouldn't have any major problems. Yang Ming didn't want to cause any trouble, so he just taught him a lesson. Now Yang Ming had more important things to do. After Yang Ming kicked Wang Daguang, he also pretended to be physically weak and fell from the rock wall. However, Yang Ming's posture when he fell was very special. After rotating 180 degrees in the air, he fell down on his stomach. So a strange scene appeared. After Yang Ming fell from above, he directly pounced on Zhao Ying's body and pushed Zhao Ying down on the inflatable cushion. Because the cushion's elasticity was very good, Yang Ming was not afraid of hurting Zhao Ying. Yang Ming just wanted to take the opportunity to lie on Zhao Ying's body and take advantage of her. He wanted to see Zhao Ying's attitude towards him. However, what he didn't expect was that because the speed of falling was too fast, after Yang Ming pushed Zhao Ying down, Yang Ming's mouth coincidentally kissed Zhao Ying's mouth. Yang Ming dared to swear that this was definitely not intentional. Although he was a little lecherous, he wasn't anxious. Coincidence, it was just a coincidence. Yang Ming was stunned and Zhao Ying was also stunned. However, Zhao Ying also knew that this was not Yang Ming's intention, so she didn't care about these details. She just looked at Yang Ming with concern. Just as she wanted to ask, she found that her mouth had already been sealed by Yang Ming. When Zhao Ying opened her mouth, Yang Ming immediately felt it. Yang Ming's heart. What does Zhao Ying mean? Could it be that she wants to open her mouth and take the initiative to ask me to kiss her? Seeing the tenderness in Zhao Ying's eyes, Yang Ming's heart moved. He might as well go all the way. Since it was already like this, it wouldn't be easy to explain. He might as well go straight to the next step. Because Zhao Ying opened her mouth, Yang Ming easily put his tongue into Zhao Ying's mouth. Woo woo? Zhao Ying was concerned about Yang Ming's safety, but she didn't expect Yang Ming to suddenly kiss her. Zhao Ying was shocked. Her whole body trembled. She wanted to say something, but unfortunately, Zhao Ying wanted to speak and her tongue couldn't help but move. In this way it touched Yang Ming's tongue. It looked like she was cooperating with Yang Ming to kiss. However, that moment of existence made Zhao Ying's heart beat faster. Such a strange feeling. So comfortable and so shy. Zhao Ying's mind went blank with a boom. What was left was only the desire for her lover. However, Yang Ming didn't know. He thought that Zhao Ying was responding to him, so he immediately put down the worry in his heart and continued to kiss Zhao Ying. Zhao Ying was in a daze and she began to cooperate with Yang Ming. In the crowd watching by the side, there was a warm applause. This scene was simply too interesting. It was too comedic and mythical. Although the organizer saw that Yang Ming failed to climb the rock, the effect was not bad. The atmosphere of the entire venue was brought up by Yang Ming, and he was secretly happy. Yang Ming is really my lucky star. It seems that I must get to know him when I have the chance. At that moment, Zhao Ying's heart was confused, and her feelings were also lost. However, Zhao Ying was still the kind of woman who was rational over everything after all. Previously, she could reject Yang Ming in a very impulsive situation, which explained this point. However, at this moment she almost made a big mistake in a daze. What am I doing? Yang Ming's current girlfriend is Qin Mengyan. What is going on with me? No, absolutely not. At least not now. Thinking of this, Zhao Ying's mind suddenly woke up. She quickly withdrew her tongue and then turned her head to the side. A shrill and despairing voice sounded lonely and abrupt amidst the cheering voices. Yang Ming and Zhao Ying were shocked at the same time, because the owner of the voice was very familiar to both of them. Qin Mengyan was very happy these 2 days. Yesterday Yang Ming actually carried her to climb the rock wall. This was such a happy and exciting thing. Qin Mengyan had some insomnia the whole night. It was the first time she missed someone so much. She missed him very much. At all times her mind was filled with Yang Ming's figure. Although I used to like Yang Ming very much and love Yang Ming very much, I have never been crazy like this. Qin Mengyan experienced the taste of passionate love for the first time. This feeling made her happy and nervous. Early in the morning, Qin Mengyan received a text message from Yang Ming, saying that he had something to do today and had to accompany a friend. Qin Mengyan couldn't help but be a little disappointed. That part of mine doesn't hurt very much today. I originally wanted to develop further with Yang Ming. It seems that I can only wait for a few days. Qin Mengyan also felt very strange about her thoughts. Although Qin Mengyan didn't reject some intimate relationship with Yang Ming before, she just felt that the relationship between the two people had reached that point, so it was dispensable. But now Qin Mengyan had a special impulse to give herself to Yang Ming for the first time. Yes, she didn't want to wait for a moment. She hoped that this moment would come sooner. However, when Yang Ming said that he had something to do today, although Qin Mengyan was a little disappointed, she wasn't angry. She decided that she would be an obedient girl in the future. She would no longer be willful and would no longer cause trouble for Yang Ming. Therefore, Qin Mengyan just told Yang Ming to be careful and didn't say anything else. At home she was a little bored, so she decided to walk around the street. Unknowingly she came to the temple fair. Qin Mengyan didn't know why she came here. Probably because there were beautiful memories of Yang Ming and herself here. Qin Mengyan felt that she was like a happy little woman. It was just a small matter and she felt very sweet when she recalled it. Since she came here, Qin Mengyan decided to go to the rock climbing place yesterday. That was the place that was most unforgettable for Qin Mengyan. When Qin Mengyan came to the rock climbing game on the entertainment street with a happy mood, she saw a scene that broke her heart. She even couldn't believe her eyes. How is this possible? The man on the air cushion is actually Yang Ming and he is actually kissing another woman. This was nothing. What Qin Mengyan couldn't accept was that the woman Yang Ming kissed was actually Zhao Ying. This made Qin Mengyan's tears burst out instantly like a flood breaking through a dam. Zhao Ying, the person that I have always respected, is actually under Yang Ming. How can this be? All along, Qin Mengyan had been treating Zhao Ying as a teacher and respected her as a sister. Moreover, she told her thoughts without reservation to this big sister. But she actually stole my man behind my back. This made Qin Mengyan unable to imagine. This blow was a bit too big. If the person under Yang Ming was Lan Ling or even Zhou Jiejia, Qin Mengyan wouldn't be so angry. But this person is Zhao Ying. The person that I thought was the most impossible was doing one thing behind my back. Qin Mengyan screamed loudly, covered her face, turned around and ran away quickly. In this world, who can I trust? On one side is my most intimate lover and on the other side is the teacher and sister that I admire. And it is these two people who did such a dirty thing behind my back. Qin Mengyan couldn't accept it, couldn't understand it and couldn't imagine it. Looking at Qin Mengyan who disappeared into the crowd, Zhao Ying and Yang Ming were shocked at the same time. Pushing Yang Ming away, Zhao Ying said reproachfully, "Hurry up and chase after her. What are you waiting for?" Then you... Yang Ming was really hesitant. Chapter 630. Seeing that Zhao Ying not only wasn't angry with him, but also wanted to help him explain, Yang Ming felt a little embarrassed. He looked at Zhao Ying gratefully then nodded. The two people quickly separated the crowd and chased in the direction where Qin Mengyan left. "Mengyan!" Yang Ming shouted loudly. Qin Mengyan's pace wasn't very fast. After all, she was a girl and she was sad. Her vision was a little blurred from crying, so Yang Ming didn't chase for long before he caught up with Qin Mengyan. He didn't know if she heard Yang Ming's call. Anyway, Qin Mengyan lowered her head and ignored Yang Ming. "Meng, you wait." Yang Ming quickly ran 2 steps and stopped in front of Qin Mengyan. "Get out of the way." Qin Mengyan glanced at Yang Ming and said, "Heard me." Yang Ming quickly said, "In fact, things aren't like what you think. I don't want to listen. Bastard, you're chanting scriptures." Qin Mengyan covered her ears with her hands. At this time, Zhao Ying also rushed over and persuaded Qin Mengyan. "Meng, really, I have nothing to do with Yang Ming. It was just an accident. I saw it with my own eyes. How can it be fake?" Qin Mengyan sneered and looked at Zhao Ying. "Zhao Ying, you go away. I don't want to see you again." Qin Mengyan wouldn't be so impulsive, but at the moment she was blinded by her feelings. Moreover, she didn't want to be polite to Zhao Ying anymore. A woman who even stole other people's husband wasn't worthy of respect at all. "Mengyan, Zhao Ying smiled bitterly. "Can you calm down first?" "I'm calm. Am I not calm down?" "I think I'm very calm." Qin Mengyan said hoarsely, Xiaoying, I don't want to see you again. As Qin Mengyan said she was going to leave, Xiaoying quickly pulled her. Let go. You're a woman who steals other people's husband. Qin Mengyan pushed Xiaoying angrily and Xiaoying staggered. Yang Ming reacted quickly and quickly held Xiaoying. Qin Mengyan took the opportunity to break away from Zhao Ying's hand and left quickly. Qin Mengyan, you're too much. Yang Ming couldn't stand it and couldn't help but scold. If it weren't for my quick reaction, Zhao Ying would have been pushed down by her. Really? You're blaming me because of her? Qin Mengyan turned around and smiled sadly. Tears streamed down her face. Then she turned around and ran away quickly. Yang Ming. Ming is angry. Zhao Ying quickly pulled Yang Ming and said, don't scold her. Besides, I didn't do anything. But, you can't push people indiscriminately when you're angry. Yang Ming also knew that Qin Mengyan was definitely angry now, but Qin Mengyan's temper, when can she change it? Forget it. Yang Ming shook his head and said, don't worry about her first. Let her calm down and think about it herself. Oh. Zhao Ying saw that Yang Ming said so and she couldn't say anything more. Zhao Ying, I'm sorry. Mingyan's temper is a bit impatient. Yang Ming said apologetically. Impatient? I can help you cover it up this time, but next time, you can't have crooked thoughts again. Zhao Ying snorted. Don't think that I didn't know what you were doing just now. This, Yang Ming said with some embarrassment. Just now, weren't you the one who took the initiative to open your mouth first? Ah? Zhao Ying was stunned. What did I open my mouth for? I wanted to talk to you. Hey. Yang Ming's mouth was wide open. But your tongue is moving too? Nonsense, your tongue doesn't move when you talk. Zhao Ying said snappily. Ugh. Yang Ming broke into a sweat. Can't be, right? But that's fine too. Did he really make a mistake by mistake? However, if she wanted to talk before then after that, wasn't Zhao Ying very cooperative with me? Yang Ming glanced at Zhao Ying and saw that her face was red. Could it be? Yang Ming secretly guessed Zhao Ying's real thoughts, but he didn't dare to ask easily. Otherwise, who knew what strange excuses Zhao Ying would find? Yang Ming, let's go back. Zhao Ying sighed and said. Let me send you back. Yang Ming nodded. With such a thing happening, both of them didn't have the interest to continue shopping. After sending Zhao Ying back to her residence, Yang Ming stopped a car and went directly to Fong Tian's place. There were two things to do when he went to Fong Tian's place. One was to prepare for tomorrow's trip together, and the other was to talk to Fong Tian about the stalker he encountered yesterday. As for the unlucky Wang Daguang, he was sent to the hospital. It was said that he had a femoral fracture. He couldn't sit or stand for a while. He could only lie on the bed. You're here? Fong Tian glanced at Yang Ming and said indifferently. Old man Fong, you're finally back. Yang Ming didn't be polite. He sat on the chair and drank a sip of water and said, how was it? Was it fun to go abroad? Did you find a few foreign girls? Do you think I can still find girls at my age? Fong Tian glanced at Yang Ming and said, don't talk about these useless things. Are you ready? We will leave tonight. Isn't it tomorrow? Asked Yang Ming. After 12 o'clock it will be tomorrow. Fong Tian said, go early and come back early. Okay, no problem. Yang Ming had nothing else to do so he nodded readily. This was his first mission and he couldn't help but be very excited. This is the target's information. You should familiarize yourself with it as soon as possible. After writing it down, destroy it directly. As Fong Tian said this, he took out a document report from a pile of broken newspapers and handed it to Yang Ming. It's best not to carry this kind of thing with you. Yang Ming nodded. As a qualified assassin, he wouldn't carry the target's file with him all the time. In that case, if he was captured, it would be difficult to get away with evidence on him. After receiving the information, Yang Ming didn't dare to be careless and looked at it seriously. Dorsk, it might be a pseudonym, but he had been using this name since his debut. Birthplace unknown, age unknown. One of the world's biggest drug lords, active in South Africa and Europe. Although the information was very little, there were a lot of photos. After Yang Ming wrote down his appearance, he nodded and said to Fong Tian, I have written it down. Burn it if you have written it down. Fong Tian took back the information in Yang Ming's hand and threw it into the stove. According to reliable sources, the target will attend a private party on a luxury ship. What we have to do is to get on the ship and wait for the opportunity to make a move. After we succeed, we should get away as soon as possible because this Dorsk has a deep background in the local area. Don't create unnecessary problems. Who wants to kill him? Yang Ming frowned. It also required courage to find an assassin to kill a big drug lord. A temporary government of an African country, and Dorsk is a sworn enemy. Fang Tian said faintly. Yang Ming didn't understand this. Killing a drug lord actually involved a temporary government. But this didn't matter. Since Fang Tian felt that this matter could be done, then it could be done. Yang Ming just did what Fang Tian said. However, for the first mission, Yang Ming couldn't help but ask, "But old man Fang, is there a bounty for this mission?" Fang Tian shook his head. Yang Ming was surprised. "Damn, it can't be, right? For free? I just wanted to practice for you, so I took this mission." Fang Tian snorted. "Such a simple mission is not worth the king of assassins. But since it's your first time, I will find you a simpler one." "So that's the case." Yang Ming nodded and said reluctantly, "But why do I feel like I'm at a disadvantage?" "Oh, the temporary government promised. After the mission is done, they will give me a diamond mine. If you can sell it, try it." Fang Tian thought about it and finally thought of this matter. Then he said indifferently, "What? Diamond mine?" Yang Ming was shocked and opened his mouth wide. "Can't be, right? It's a waste if we don't take this thing. Won't we be rich if we get a mine? Do you think that every diamond mine can produce diamonds? Even if it can be produced, it will be divided into several parts." Fang Tian said indifferently, "Many mines may be dead mines, or there will be no more after a few diamonds are opened. What's the point of wasting so much energy? Besides, who would go to such a deserted place?" Yang Ming was speechless. This Fang Tian looks so poor. Why is he so arrogant? He doesn't want the diamond mine. He doesn't want it, but I want it. Whether it's a dead mine or not, wouldn't I know at a glance? As for the amount of diamonds, wasn't it just a matter of a glance? Chapter 631. For Fang Tian, this mine might be no different from trash, but it was different in Yang Ming's hands. "Do you want us to pick a mine randomly, or do you want us to pick a specific one?" asked Yang Ming. "Just pick randomly, but can you understand it?" asked Fang Tian, baffled. "I have a friend who can understand it." Yang Ming naturally couldn't tell Fang Tian about his own matters, but he could tell others about Lan Ling's sixth sense. This wasn't a secret. In Yunnan, because Lan Ling's father took her to gamble, many people knew that Lan Ling's sixth sense was very accurate. "She knows how to read this." Fang Tian said, "Really? Do you know people in this field?" "She doesn't know how to read this, but her sixth sense is particularly accurate." Yang Ming smiled and said, "She has a grandpa Zhua. You should know him, right?" "Grandpa Zhua?" Fang Tian frowned. This surname was very rare. Among the people he knew, there was only one with this surname. "Are you talking about Senior Zhua of Yunnan's Miaojiang?" "It should be." Yang Ming nodded and said, "He said, the Grand Master once saved his life. That is undoubtedly Senior Zhua," said Fang Tian. "Is your friend his grandson or granddaughter?" "No, my friend is the granddaughter of the Miaojiang's leader," Yang Ming explained. "Your little girlfriend?" Fang Tian glanced at Yang Ming. "Hee." Yang Ming laughed twice. "I have arranged a marriage for you," Fang Tian suddenly said. "What? Arranged marriage?" Yang Ming looked at Fang Tian in amazement. "Old man, what kind of international joke are you making? You arranged a marriage for me?" "I'm not making international jokes, but this marriage is international." Fang Tian was rarely humorous, but this humor was a bit too cold. "Old man Fang, although you are my master, how can you treat marriage as a joke? Besides, I already have a girlfriend. Aren't you adding trouble to me?" Yang Ming looked at Fang Tian's serious look. He was annoyed and amused. "Besides, how old am I? You arranged a marriage for me? Oh, the engagement doesn't affect your girlfriend." "It doesn't matter." Fang Tian said, "This is the old rule. The marriage of the king of assassins was arranged by my master." "Then why don't you get engaged?" asked Yang Ming. "My situation is special." Fang Tian. "Since you haven't gotten engaged, then let's talk about this later." Yang Ming wasn't willing to get engaged with someone he didn't know, let alone an international marriage. Could it be that he was going to marry a foreign woman? Fang Tian wasn't in a hurry anyway. He just casually mentioned this to Yang Ming. Oh yeah, I met a guy at the temple fair yesterday. He looked ordinary but his skills were good. He seemed to recognize my acupoint sealing technique and asked me about my relationship with you. Yang Ming remembered the person he met at the temple fair yesterday, so he told Fong Tian about how the person followed him and was restrained by him. Oh. Fong Tian hesitated and asked, what was the person's accent? How should I say it? His Mandarin was very standard, but he was definitely not a local. Yang Ming thought about it. This person seemed to have put on makeup to make people feel that he was ordinary. It was easy to ignore him in the crowd. As for his skills, I didn't test it. Because he was directly restrained by me, he couldn't perform. That day, who was with you? Fong Tian nodded and asked. Me, my girlfriend Qin Mengyan and 2 friends. Yang Ming said. What friends? What are their names? Fong Tian seemed to be very interested in the 2 people. One is called Wang Xiaoyan and the other is called Li Yixuan. Yang Ming said, what's wrong? After Fong Tian heard it, he nodded thoughtfully. Then he smiled and said to himself, so that's the case. What's the case? Yang Ming asked, baffled. Nothing. I know about this. You don't have to worry about it. Fong Tian waved his hand and said, don't worry. He won't do anything bad to you, and he doesn't seem to be your opponent, hee. Yang Ming saw that Fong Tian didn't want to say more, so he didn't ask any more. Anyway, it didn't have much to do with him. Yang Ming went home and packed his luggage. He said goodbye to his parents and said that he was going to work on the jewelry company's business. His parents didn't suspect anything. In fact, Yang Ming couldn't be considered as lying. After all, he had a diamond mine. It could be considered as working for the jewelry company. Originally, he wanted to say goodbye to Qin Mengyan before leaving. However, because of the misunderstanding with Qin Mengyan, Yang Ming hesitated and decided to forget about it. He would talk to her after he came back. Before leaving, he went to Lin Jiun's place. Anyway, it was close to Fong Tian's house. He told Lin Jiun to look for Ho Zhenhan if she had anything. He believed that in Songjiang, there were very few things that Ho Zhenhan couldn't do. As for Old Buffon, Yang Ming called him and told him that he was going out. Although Old Buffon was very regretful, he also knew that a master like Yang Ming often traveled around the world. However, what made him happy was that Yang Ming promised to accept him as a disciple, but he could only teach him some ordinary martial arts. Even so, Old Buffon was already very happy. He also knew that at his age, it was basically impossible for him to cultivate a peerless martial art. At 3 o'clock in the morning, after Fong Tian received a phone call, he said to Yang Ming, "Are you ready? Let's go now." Yang Ming nodded. He was very excited and nervous. Taking advantage of the night, Fong Tian took Yang Ming to the side of a cargo port on the coast of Songjiang. It wasn't far from Yang Dashan's original battlefield. On the sea, there were boats passing by in 2s and 3s, emitting little lights. "Come up." Fong Tian pointed to an open container and said faintly. "We are going in here?" Yang Ming looked at the direction that Fong Tian pointed. It was a large container that was enough to accommodate dozens of people. "Yes." Fong Tian nodded, then opened the container and said, "Someone will come to load the ship in a while. We are going to transfer here to Europe." "This is smuggling?" Yang Ming scratched his head. He looked inside the container. There was nothing, it was bare. From here it would take a few days to reach Europe, right? He had to stay in this container for a long time. Yang Ming was helpless when he thought about it, but there was no other way. He gritted his teeth and went in. Fong Tian greeted a man in black not far from the container. The man nodded and made an okay gesture. After Fong Tian came in, the man in black closed the container with a clang sound. "Do you feel okay? There is no electricity here. We have to spend a few days in the dark." Fong Tian said plainly, "As an assassin, you should also train to adapt to the dark." In the dark, Yang Ming didn't have any discomfort. Because of the special ability of his eyes, Yang Ming could see things as if it was daytime. Therefore, the training in this aspect could almost be ignored. "Old man, I was born with good eyesight. I can see very clearly here." Yang Ming smiled. "Really? How many is this?" Fong Tian extended 4 fingers. "4, but now it has become 3, Yang Ming said. Because Fong Tian's hand immediately retracted a finger after Yang Ming said 4. "Your eyesight is not bad." Fong Tian nodded with satisfaction. Even without training you are better than me who is professionally trained. Is there a cushion or something like that? The ground is a bit too hard. Yang Ming pointed at his feet and said, how do I sleep? Just sleep like this. Fong Tian said with a blank expression. A qualified assassin needs to adapt to the environment, not to change the environment. Heh. Yang Ming waved his hand and said, you are so long-winded. Old man, I got it. Go to sleep. Starting tomorrow I will train you. Fong Tian threw his backpack aside and then lay on the ground. After a long time Yang Ming felt that the container began to move. He raised his eyes and looked outside. The container was lifted up by a crane and then placed on a worn-out cargo ship. Yang Ming's container was pressed down by many different containers. Yang Ming was secretly shocked when he saw this. If there was an accident on this ship, Fong Tian and I couldn't escape even if we wanted to. But since we are here, let's take it as it is. Since it had become a fact, there was no other use to worry. With a muffled whistle, the freighter slowly moved. Yang Ming closed his eyes and soon fell asleep. There was no light or sunlight in the container. It was always dark. Chapter 632. After an unknown amount of time, Yang Ming was woken up by Fong Tian. Wake up, kid. Today's training has started. Fong Tian roared in Yang Ming's ear. Yang Ming opened his eyes and looked at the sky outside through the container. Sure enough, the sun was shining brightly. Looking at the position of the sun, it should be around 9 o'clock in the morning. Yang Ming sat up and asked, when will we arrive? I'm not sure. I don't know how this ship's route is arranged, but naturally someone will get us out when we arrive. Fong Tian opened his backpack and took out a pack of compressed biscuits. He threw it to Yang Ming. Oh. Yang Ming took the compressed biscuit and opened it to eat. Yang Ming had long known that he would need to eat this in the next few days. Although he was mentally prepared, when he really ate it he understood how bad it was. This was different from the compressed biscuits sold in the supermarket. The compressed biscuits in the supermarket were popular and the taste was good. However, Fong Tian's compressed biscuits were specially made from an unknown source. Not only was it bad, but it was also as hard as a rock. The only advantage was that it could resist hunger. After Yang Ming ate 2 pieces he felt full. The biscuits that he ate were stuffed to the brim in his stomach as if they were foaming agent. After drinking the mineral water that Fong Tian handed over, Yang Ming nodded and said, I'm done. Okay, let's start the special training. Fong Tian stood up. How is the special training? Asked Yang Ming. You hit me, then I hit you. Fong Tian said word by word. Yang Ming was speechless. Is this also considered training? Isn't this sparring? Yang Ming and Fong Tian had sparred more than once. Although he could withstand a few moves, he still lost to Fong Tian in the end. Yang Ming also knew that although he had worked very hard, the gap between him and Fong Tian was a few decades. He couldn't catch up overnight. Therefore, the only thing Yang Ming did in the container every day was to spar with Fong Tian, then eat and sleep. Although the excrement of both of them was packed in sealed bags, it was inevitable that some strange smell would be emitted. After a few days, the smell in the container was very bad. Moreover, something that shocked Yang Ming happened in the middle of it. One night there was a harsh alarm sound on the calm sea. Yang Ming and Fong Tian opened their eyes at the same time. Yang Ming looked outside and saw 2 patrol warships from an unknown country approaching the cargo ship. What should we do? Yang Ming glanced at Fong Tian and asked, It seems that someone is coming to check the ship. Oh. Fong Tian looked at the watch on his hand and stretched lazily. He said indifferently, Investigate. How of them? Move the container down? Yang Ming had already seen the situation outside. Although the 2 small warships had guns and cannons, there was no crane. It was a bit difficult to check the ship. Don't worry about it. Fong Tian said faintly, It may be the coast guard of a small country that wants to get some income. After that he closed his eyes and continued to sleep. Sure enough, after Yang Ming saw the 2 warships close to his side of the cargo ship, an officer with a big nose said something to the sailor. Then the sailor also said something to the big nose in the same language and made a few gestures. After a while, another sailor came over with 2 bundles of US dollars in his hand and threw them to the big nose. After the big nose took it, he flipped the inside of the banknotes with his fingers and then nodded with satisfaction. After a few words to the other officers behind him, the two warships left. The few sailors on his side of the cargo ship also returned to the cabin one after another. They didn't look panicked at all. It seemed that they had experienced this kind of thing, so they were used to it. They didn't take it seriously at all. Looking at the appearance of the people on the warships, Yang Ming also knew that here was not far from the destination. After a few hours, the ship finally docked at a dock. Oh, it wasn't a dock because Yang Ming saw another giant cargo ship. The small cargo ship that they were on was docked beside another giant cargo ship. The crane on the giant cargo ship lifted the containers on the small cargo ship one by one and placed them on the deck. When the crane lifted the box that Yang Ming and Fang Tian were in, it paused obviously. Then the speed became very slow and steady. It placed the box alone in another place. After the box landed, a foreign fat man rushed over with a few sailors and then ordered the sailors to quickly open the container. "Oh God, what is this smell?" The fat man complained in broken Chinese. "Hazik, you are still so fat. It seems that your weight loss plan has failed." Fang Tian smiled and greeted him. "Dear Fang, I finally see you again. My good brother, I thought I would never see you again." Hazik directly gave Fang Tian a bear hug. "Don't lose me. I can't die even if you die." Fang Tian pushed the guy in front of him away and then gasped, "You dead fat man, you are crushing me." I found that my appetite has increased again, so I am so fat. Sorry." Hazik shook his head. "Let me introduce you. This is my nephew." Fang Tian pointed to Yang Ming. "Hello, little guy. You are really more handsome than this uncle." As Hazik said this, he gave Yang Ming a bear hug again. Yang Ming couldn't avoid it, so he had to let him hug him. Who knew where this guy learned this damn etiquette from? "Is everything ready?" Fang Tian asked Hazik. "Don't worry. I will naturally do the thing that you, an old friend, asked me to do." Hazik said casually, "You can be more relaxed for the next route. You don't have to stay in that damn container anymore." "Well, then I will go first. This time is tight. I will catch up with you another day." Fang Tian patted Hazik's shoulder and said, "Oh well, I wanted to look for you for a drink." Hazik also understood Fang Tian's temper. He knew that if he said that he had something, then it definitely couldn't be delayed. "The plane is ready. It is on the deck over there. It will take you to Henry Resort Island." Hazik said, "The cruise ship you said will pass by Henry Resort Island in 2 days. This is your boarding card and identity document." As Hazik said this, he took a portfolio and handed it to Fang Tian. Then he said, "Of course you can also get on the ship. This identity document and boarding card are just for emergencies. There is no problem with these 2 things. They can be used normally. It was done in my name, Hazik. If I use it, will it cause you any trouble?" Fang Tian opened the portfolio and glanced at the documents. Then he asked with a smile. I'm not bragging. Who dares to find trouble with me, Hazik?" Hazik laughed disdainfully. "Fang, the question you asked is not a friend's question. I'm just kidding." Fang Tian waved his hand. "Don't worry. We will try not to use the boarding card to board the ship." "Up to you." Hazik shrugged and said, "I wish you good luck." With Fang Tian and Yang Ming, Hazik boarded a private jet on the deck. Hazik waved goodbye to Fang Tian on the side. The plane slowly took off and headed for Henry Island. Henry Island didn't belong to any country. It was a private island. The Henry family was a declining aristocrat. They used their last family property to buy this island. Of course, without their aristocratic identity, this island couldn't be bought easily. After that, the Henry family had been managing the island into a vacation place for the rich. After a few decades, this place had a small reputation in Europe. On the island there were casinos, luxury hotels and entertainment venues. Many rich people enjoyed this place. "What does this Hazik do?" After boarding the plane, Yang Ming asked Fang Tian. "He is an arms dealer. His background is very strong. He is the exclusive spokesperson of many munitions factories. The local government has to be courteous to him." Fang Tian introduced, "But he is very loyal. His relationship with me is very close." Yang Ming nodded. No wonder he was so arrogant just now. He said that whoever dares to find trouble with him. It seems that he is really not afraid that others will find trouble with him. A big drug lord died. Even if the local government was suspicious, they wouldn't do anything to him, the arms dealer. It was clear at a glance who was more important. In the future, I will slowly hand over my relationship to you. While you accept my network, you have to try to make some friends. Feng Tian said to Yang Ming. Chapter 633. The plane was parked at the private parking lot of Henry Island. Obviously, many people here knew this plane and ran over eagerly. It seemed that Hazik's influence was still great. Yang Ming and Feng Tian were now a pair of father and son who traveled here from the Middle East. They were also Hazik's big customers. The staff of Henry Island naturally didn't dare to offend them. They directly arranged the best room for them and gave them delicious food. The two of them had a big meal in the room and then had a good sleep. Tomorrow evening, the Alice cruise ship will dock at the dock of Henry Island for an hour. Feng Tian looked at the information in his hand and said, "What you have to do is to use this 1 hour to get on the ship and kill the target." Yang Ming nodded. "What if this guy is with others? Lead him away." Feng Tian said with a blank expression, "Or kill them together." Yang Ming frowned and said, "This isn't good, right? There is nothing good about it. You are an assassin. Sometimes in order to protect yourself, you have to do something ruthless." Feng Tian looked at Yang Ming and said, "If one day I want to betray you, you have to kill me without hesitation." "I can't do it." Yang Ming shook his head and said bitterly. "AI." Feng Tian sighed. "I know you are a soft-hearted person. This is your strength and also your weakness." "Well, I will act according to the circumstances tomorrow," Yang Ming said. The night of Henry Island was a paradise for the rich. On the entire island there were songs and dances. Many high-class prostitutes were wandering around, waiting for those rich guests to spend a lot of money for them. Yang Ming and Feng Tian rested early. Both of them were not in the mood to enjoy all this. Feng Tian was indifferent to these, but Yang Ming felt very melancholy because of what Feng Tian said to him just now. However, in order not to attract the attention of others, sometimes it was still necessary to put on an act. The next day Yang Ming and Feng Tian appeared in the casino on time. Hazik had asked them to prepare the bargaining chips for them. Both of them took some to play separately. Although Yang Ming could use his special ability to cheat most of the time, he didn't do so. He just kept himself in a state where he didn't lose or earn. However, even if this was the case, it wasn't easy. After spending the morning, Yang Ming and Feng Tian had a meal in the restaurant in the casino at noon. Because the two people were silent, the waiter thought that it was because they didn't speak the same language. In the afternoon, Yang Ming and Feng Tian came to the seaside. While they were basking in the sun, they ordered some seafood barbecue and drank some draft beer. They really looked like a pair of father and son who were here for a vacation. Calm. Chapter 634. In order to facilitate the operation, Yang Ming and Feng Tian chose a room on the first floor. Opening the window, Yang Ming could easily do things outside. Although the second and third floors were not difficult for Yang Ming, it was easy to be discovered by others when he climbed down. It was not as convenient as the first floor. Looking at Yang Ming's figure that was hidden in the woods, Feng Tian nodded with satisfaction. This kid's comprehension and ability are not bad. I didn't choose the wrong apprentice. Even Yang Ming's kindness could be regarded as a merit. Feng Tian didn't want his apprentice to become a murderous person. However, when it jeopardized his own interests, Feng Tian also hoped that Yang Ming's heart could be hardened. Yang Ming chose a beach far from the dock. Then he dived into the sea with a special curved straw in his mouth and swam to the Alice. Although Yang Ming could board the ship legitimately with the boarding card, he would definitely leave a record. If he disappeared after boarding the ship, then when the murder case came out, it was obvious that he would become the key suspect. In this way, it would definitely bring some trouble to Hazik. Although Hazik said that he wasn't afraid of trouble, Yang Ming didn't want to do this. The first mission was also a test for himself. If everything was well prepared and he could easily kill the target, then what was the point of it? Therefore Yang Ming still chose the most conventional way. He and Feng Tian pretended to drink too much and went back to the room to rest. The waiter could prove this. After they returned to the room, they never came out again. Then Yang Ming chose to leave the room from the window and board the ship by swimming in the sea. In this way he could fake proof that he was not present. Although if someone wanted to investigate they could definitely find some clues. Who would dare to investigate Hozik's guest? Unless they had conclusive evidence. But then again, even if they had conclusive evidence, they had to think twice before investigating Hozik's people. Moreover, the dead person was just a big drug lord. No matter how strong his relationship was, the nature of his profession was there. No one would stick up for a dead person. Perhaps, Dorsk's death might touch the interests of some people, which made them very upset. However, since the interest had been lost, it was obviously unwise to offend another strong character. What's more, Yang Ming would not leave any evidence at all. In this way the entire assassination process was much safer. Yang Ming needed to find Dorsk's location himself because the position of a person on the ship was particularly arbitrary. It was impossible to be fixed in a certain position. This was a very challenging and difficult figure for other assassins. Whether you were an experienced assassin or a fledgling assassin, you couldn't predict the position of the target now. This was also a test that Fong Tian gave to Yang Ming, a test of Yang Ming's ability to adapt. However, for Yang Ming didn't have any difficulty. Finding people was Yang Ming's strength. As long as he hid in a corner he could use his special ability to scan the situation in the entire cabin. And he could find Dorsk. This was one of the advantages of Yang Ming, an advantage that he had over any assassin. Yang Ming chose to board the ship from the deck facing away from the dock. This was the landing strip for private planes. At this time no one was here. This was also Yang Ming's detection. He found that there was no one here, so he swam here to board the ship. On the side of the ship, there was no place to put his hand, but Yang Ming had put a special suction cup on his hand. He could easily adhere to the surface of the metal with a little water. Therefore Yang Ming easily climbed to the deck of the cruise ship and hid directly behind a seaplane. Although Yang Ming had used his special ability to investigate, there were no suspicious people nearby, but for safety Yang Ming still hid. Yang Ming looked at the watch on his hand. It was now 7:20. He still had 40 minutes. The Alice would set sail at 8 o'clock and leave the dock at Henry Road, so he had to finish the battle before 8 o'clock. Dorsk was an extremely arrogant person, but he also had the capital to be arrogant. Although he couldn't be compared with Hozik, his status on this cruise ship was already very high. Most entrepreneurs knew his identity behind the scenes. They wouldn't easily go against this person. For his arrogance they would tolerate it. However, in this way Dorsk was even more unscrupulous in doing things. However, today Dorsk was very annoyed. Yes, he was unusually annoyed. Ever since he boarded the Alice, no one had dared to disrespect him. Every day, Dorsk lived a carefree life under the compliments and flattery of others. Every night, some Hollywood female stars took the initiative to accompany him, which made Dorsk feel very comfortable. The pinnacle of power was just like this. Looking back at the politicians and businessmen who pretended to be serious, they were actually not much better than him, but they pretended to be serious. They wanted to sleep with women, but they were still hiding it. Dorsk's desire was extremely inflated. He thought that he was a local emperor, a king who could do whatever he wanted. However, today he encountered a very humiliating thing. The women that he liked, which one of them didn't take the initiative to throw themselves into his arms? Regardless of whether you were a pure and innocent girl outside or a movie star in his own bed, there was no difference between you and those high-class prostitutes. The women who slept with Dorsk could get a huge check. This money was enough for these people to work for a year or even a few years. So how could those women not flock to him? Sometimes at night there would even be 2, 3 or even 4 women in Dorsk's bed at the same time. Dorsk didn't refuse any of them and he was happy to do so. In his opinion, as long as he hooked his little finger, the beautiful women on the ship could line up and wait for him to choose. However, all of this was destroyed by a hateful woman. This was what Dorsk couldn't tolerate. Is this Hong Kong star very badass? She actually rejected me in public? Dorsk couldn't help but become angry. This was a challenge to his dignity and his authority. If everyone imitated her, then he didn't need to mingle. Although this star was a little famous and her father was also a businessman in Dorsk's eyes, that level of small businessman was like an ant. He didn't need to put them in his eyes at all. Things were like this. Today, Dorsk was invited by a Japanese friend and condescended to attend an Oriental dance party. In his opinion, his identity as a Caucasian was incomparably noble. Condescending to attend a colored ball was already giving him enough face. If it weren't for the Japanese man's flattery, saying that he was the most awesome person in the world, Dorsk would not have gone to this dance party. The Japanese man was the leader of a certain extreme organization. He was going to do some white powder business with Dorsk, so he was bowing to him. As soon as Dorsk came to the dance party, he found many famous actresses to accompany this old pervert. The feeling of being surrounded by stars made Dorsk feel very refreshed, and his mood was very comfortable. He hugged the two actresses and began to move his hands up and down unscrupulously. These two actresses had been instructed by the Japanese man, and they were very cooperative with Dorsk. However, when Dorsk saw another girl who was as beautiful as a celestial being, he immediately felt that the two actresses in his arms were two piles of dung. Dorsk's eyes were straight. Yes, this girl was too beautiful. Mixing in the flowers every day had made Dorsk's taste very tricky. Usually, there were very few women who could enter his eyes, let alone someone who could make his heart move. He hadn't wanted a woman so much for a long time. Yes, this long-lost desire made Dorsk very excited. Although he did mechanical exercises in bed every day, it was only to vent his desire. There hadn't been a woman who could make his heart move like this for a long time. Dorsk immediately let go of the woman in his hand. The only thing left in his eyes was the Oriental girl. He walked towards the girl with what he thought was a very gentlemanly and elegant pace. He wanted to get her into bed and make her his subject. This was Dorsk's only thought. There was no woman that Dorsk couldn't get if he wanted to. Therefore, he wasn't worried about being rejected. There was nothing that Dorsk couldn't do. He had this confidence. As for the Japanese team leader, when he saw Dorsk suddenly walking in one direction, he quickly followed him. In his opinion, Dorsk was his god of fortune. You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.